of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, What's going on? It's Wednesday night. Here we are once again.
Yeah.
Talking about some other bastard.
Yeah.
Like we're always talking about.
Yeah, I was worried that the camera might be fucked up.
Why would the camera be
I
fucked
don't know.
up?
BTK is where he's supposed to be.
I didn't touch anything.
All right. Is it this way?
Do you think that I come in here and just fuck with everything all
you
day?
might fuck with shit.
No, I don't. I really don't. I don't. No, now it's crooked.
No, straightening it out. There you go.
No, it's
Straighten it
definitely crooked.
Okay, then I'll straighten it back down.
It's definitely crooked. I can see that it's crooked. I can see the line.
I'm doing that.
Yeah, well now it's straight.
Okay,
But
yeah.
you had it crooked before.
All right.
It was like that. It was like that.
Yeah, and then this.
I don't. Okay, quit.
And then we're gonna do just like that.
Quit playing with everything.
Cause I'm a man. It's got to be straight. Women, this shit could be crooked, but my shit's got to be straight.
It wasn't crooked though.
Okay. It was crooked.
You're a man.
I fucking fixed it.
Okay, whatever.
All right, today.
You just keep telling yourself that.
Today, Bill Cosby. Yeah.
This motherfucker, allegedly.
Yeah, man.
Wait, do we have to necessarily say allegedly? Because he was convicted.
Oh, no, he did the shit.
So, well, I think he did the shit,
yeah,
too.
he's convicted.
And he's probably too old to sue me. So, you know what I mean?
He was convicted.
Because he did have a thing where he would sue people for defamation. For saying
He was convicted, though, we know.
He was convicted, yeah. Just because he was let out on what was a technicality, really. You know, yeah, he's an old fart now and stuff like, but man, he got away with this shit for so long. This was like, I was just telling Tom, I said I saw somebody compare this, because I was watching some other documentaries about this, and there were some British people in the comments, and it's like, you know, we don't know quite as much about Cosby because that was an American thing, but it's like, this is kind of like equivalent to this is like the American Jimmy Savile kind of case, where it was like somebody that was hugely famous, hugely influential, and was doing this shit for like decades and decades, and was just like getting away with it for like all that time.
Cosby was a comedic genius, and he was very powerful, very influential, and he's very rich. He could make or break your career as a comic. He was kind of like the Johnny Carson of fucking of comedy for a while. I remember growing up, being a little boy, fucking riding on the damn Delta Airlines, man, going back to Mississippi. All right, listening to fucking headphones, and fucking one of the channels was nothing but Bill Cosby stand up, and he was funny as fuck, man. I haven't heard it in a long time. I don't know if it's aged well, but when you were a kid, and adults liked it too. His shit was super fucking funny. He put out record albums, and that's where his fame came from. Now, when I got a little bit older, he had his own television show. What was it called? Cosby Show, right? No, we called it the Cosby Show.
Well, he had lots of TV shows.
Oh yeah,
he was on I Spy. He did
for a while,
Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, which was animated.
Grew up watching Fat Albert.
He had another one called Cosby Show, like that I think was in the 70s, that ran for a couple seasons, where he was like a PE teacher or something.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that one.
Yeah, and he was on other shows too. Like, remember he was on the Electric Company?
Yeah.
He had Picture Pages, like that kids show. I still remember the fucking theme song to that. He was on a couple episodes of Sesame Street, if I remember correctly. So he was like famous.
He was just an American classic.
He was hugely famous even before the Cosby Show started in, I think, 1984. Yeah. Which kind of propelled him to like that was like a huge he became like an icon at that point.
Yeah, and what was weird about fucking Cosby, if you're too young to know about this, or if you come from another country, you don't know who the fuck we're talking about. Cosby was the paradigm of like the all-American dad.
Yeah. That's what was so fucked up about it.
Yeah, on the show, he was kind of like he was even-handed, dealing with his kids.
Very wise.
All wise and fucking super good ethics and everything. So he was not a fucking raunchy comedian. He
used to get on other comedians' cases,
like Eddie Murphy,
and stuff like that, like for swearing and like for all of this like degenerate comedy and stuff like that, which just goes to show, in my experience, anybody that gets butthurt about swearing
Yeah.
or people talking about sex or anything
Porn.
like that, or porn or anything
Yeah.
like that, that person has some massive, massive skeletons in their closet, almost without exception.
Yeah.
Almost without exception.
Yeah, that does protest too much.
Exactly.
That kind of shit.
If you
Who
like,
cares what a hoe does?
yeah, if you
Fucking-
like present yourself as some paragon of virtue, then ooh,
Yeah.
you got some real fucked up shit going on.
Yeah, you hiding
there.
shit.
Big
But
time.
I grew up, and me like a lot of American guys grew up listening to the black comics. They were, when you're young, man, they were fucking funny. They're still fucking funny. Dave Chappelle, come on. I would be like 8 years old listening to Richard Pryor albums.
Richard Pryor was the fucking
And
man.
he was dirty, man. He was fucking
I know,
dirty.
he
This
was
shit
fucking
was,
great.
it was so fucking funny. But like, we'd be listening to it with headphones and shit. Me and other little boys, did you hear what he said? Oh, and some of the shit we didn't get. Some of it we didn't get.
Probably went over your head.
Then fucking Red Fox too. He was fucking dirty. Fucking
Yeah, his stand-up was very dirty.
super dirty. Now there were some white ones too. Fucking Buddy Hackett used to listen to him, and there were some other ones. But fucking the black ones kind of stood. George Carlin. The black ones kind of stood out though, especially Eddie Murphy came out when I was in high school, and he was the shit because he was young. He was he was younger than a lot of the other ones, just a little bit older than me from my point of view at the time. And in his movies, fucking Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, fucking 48 Hours, fucking just all his shit, fucking The Golden Child. And recently he's coming out with some good stuff too, fucking Dolomite Is My Name. Or is that what it's called? Dolomite's My Name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't have it on Blu-ray. I gotta get it.
I thought we did.
I thought I had it too, but I searched, but I don't have it.
I'm pretty sure we bought that. It's
I
gotta
thought
be,
I did.
It's got to be someplace.
But Cosby was like, he was kind of I wouldn't call him the main one in terms of like cutting edge comedy.
No,
But he was the
pretty safe.
conservative fucking guy that kind of like he seemingly controlled the black comedy scene and a lot of the white comedy scene. He was kind of like the Johnny Carson of the comedy scene. If he didn't like you, he'd come down on you, and with some effect. Now, later on, by the time the 80s started to roll around, fucking Cosby shit, as far as stand-up, started to get kind of tired. So he kind of lost his influence there, and his influence really started to go more into television, daytime television, and mainstream. Because the mainstream crowd didn't listen to comedy albums. That was underground.
Yeah.
Even though he got famous on that. But it's just weird, like, looking back on it, that dude was an American fucking fixture. And then he was doing this shit. He's basically a serial rapist.
Yeah.
It's basically what you're doing.
I mean, that's... Well, the crazy thing about it, and I think that's kind of why everyone was so shocked by it, and maybe people didn't believe it at first, is because I think that because he had cultivated this all-American, wise dad, this very avuncular kind of image for so long, that people thought that that's what he was really like.
Yeah.
And, spoiler alert, he was really not like that.
Here's the fucking weird thing. When I was a teenager, my stepdad, who I fucking hated, all right, loved fucking Bill Cosby. He modeled a lot of his behavior after fucking Bill Cosby. That bitch was a perv too. He was a perv too. But fucking...
Why does that not surprise
me? I suspected perv, but yeah, he's a fucking perv. But, well, it's funny because, and my stepdad was the whitest motherfucker that you could ever think of.
He was very white.
The whitest
I knew him.
Michigander fucking Aryan fucking 6'5", 6'20", fucking shit was big. And he was an asshole. No creativity. In the box motherfucker. Pain in the ass. Rip up all my Judas Priest posters when I was a kid. Fuck up my albums and shit. He didn't like metal. He didn't want me listening to any of that shit. So I just became more rebellious and harder. I got harder. I got hard at an early age. But he loved fucking Bill Cosby. He would, and I think he died by the time Bill Cosby got fucking busted. But I kind of wish he would have fucking lived long enough to see that shit.
He probably wouldn't have believed it, I don't think. A lot of people
they were
didn't
setting him
at
up.
first.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that even though the allegations didn't really go mainstream, I feel like, until 2014, which we'll get into, But shit like that had been bubbling under the surface for a long time, and a lot of comedians and like other people in the entertainment industry knew about it, like knew he was a piece of shit. It was kind of an open secret, but no one really did anything about it. Like a couple of the victims did report stuff, like when it happened to them, because the allegations go back to the fucking 60s, like the early 60s. But a lot of times nothing was done, and you have to think too that in this, you know, particularly in the 60s and 70s, I think like they didn't really take it all that seriously, and a lot of the women later when they came forward, they were like, you know, they were like, well, who the fuck was gonna believe me, you know what I mean? It's like no one, but he was famous and I was a nobody, and everyone just thought I was like that I'd wanted it, or you know, I was stupid or whatever. So it's like they didn't report it, and like I don't blame them for that, and I understand.
Yeah, I remember the 70s California scene. You know, I grew up partially in California half the time and in Mississippi the other half the time, going back and forth, because my parents got divorced when I was like 8. I spent a lot of time in California, too. And California in the 70s and the 80s was very permissive. More permissive than it is now in certain ways. Especially with those boomers. Most of them are dead now, but... And the ones a little bit older. They were fucking freaky. I remember it, man. You go to fucking Sequoia National Forest and fucking bunch of nudism going on, nude teenage girls and old people running around and just fucking, you know, they were into the weird shit like key parties and fucking, you know, sex was off the chain in California in the 70s. So I can understand how a dude as rich and powerful as fucking Bill Cosby, he might think that he could just do whatever he wanted. Which
well, he could do it. I mean, he got away with it for a very long time. He was an old man when they caught him.
Things that you'd get in big trouble for now, back then they just kind of, you wouldn't get in trouble for that. Like the underage thing, they didn't give a shit.
Yeah, he did some of that shit.
Yeah, it fucking probably on paper you'd get, if you were in your 30s, you'd get in trouble fucking having sex with a 14-year-old girl. You'd get in trouble on paper, but in reality, you wouldn't. Back in those days, oh, she's cool, he's cool, it's all right, nobody cares. They'd be like that.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays, you get put
nowadays
on
you fucking go to jail. Yeah.
Which, like I said, right.
And you could call the cops, and the cops would go, it's consensual. That's the way. I know.
That's
the fucking attitude that they had.
So I kind of feel like that's maybe why, because I think one of the main things about whenever this kind of thing happens, where like some powerful dude or like celebrity or something, and like, you know, all these women start coming out with all these allegations, and like I think most people's first instinct is to say, oh, they're making it up, or they're trying to like blackmail him, or they're trying to get a payout or whatever. But the thing about it is that, one, I don't know, like a lot of these, like I said, a lot of these allegations stemmed from a very long time ago. Some of them were reported at the time, but nothing was done about them.
Yeah. And
you have to think too that in the era when a lot of them happened, there really wasn't the language to talk about it. Like, a lot of these women were quite young. The thing about it that I didn't even realize until I started researching this was that a lot of the women, it wasn't just a case of him, now he did do this a few times, of him just like meeting like a cocktail waitress or something like that and drugging her and whatever. Like, some of these women, he knew them, like they were family friends, or he knew their parents, or he mentored them for years and acted completely normally, like as a father figure, and helped them get acting jobs and shit like that. And then all of a sudden, one night, hey, come to my house, we'll do this and that, and then bam. So they had no idea. They were just completely blindsided because this dude they'd known for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years suddenly did this to them, and they just couldn't like fathom it. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? Like, why did he suddenly do this after all this time? And he even did it to women that he was in a consensual sexual relationship with for some time.
That had to have been his...
A couple of times he did that.
I don't know I don't really know the details of any of these specific cases. Jen's fucking dug them up, and that's really what the show is going to be about. I know kind of in general the shit that he would do, but from just what I know on the surface, when she just told me that, he's one of these dudes where that's his kink.
It's got to be.
That non-consensualism, something being non-consensual, is what he's looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the weird thing about it is that from what he has personally confessed, I don't think he'd call it a confession, but that's what I call it. The way that he worded it Because if you read, like, I'll talk about it later, but, like, he gave this deposition for one of the trials, like, in 2004, 2005. And from what he said in there, like, he admitted some shit that I'm like, you realize what you just admitted is, like, a crime, right? But it's like he doesn't really seem to see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like...
He's a parallel universe motherfucker.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he just didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Like, he thought it was okay.
Ego. It's him.
To just, like, drug women into unconsciousness and then do whatever you wanted with them?
Yeah, but
he didn't think there was anything wrong with that. That was the impression that I got.
Well, yeah, he's Bill Cosby. He could do it. That's what he's thinking.
I do kind of feel like because
he's Bill Cosby.
Man, he did get even. You know what? Even from like pretty early on. I mean, he did get famous. I don't want to call him an overnight success, but almost. Like, he got famous like pretty quickly. Like, after he started
he was
doing
talented.
stand up and stuff. Yeah, and like, and I'm not, and I'd give him that. He was very funny, but like.
And it was the timing when he appeared, the kind of humor that he had.
Yeah, but even from the very beginning, you know, when he was doing TV shows and things like that, you know, people that worked with him said that he was very difficult, that he was kind of arrogant, that he was condescending, that it was kind of like his way or the highway kind of thing. Like, he seemed behind the scenes like nothing like the persona that he was portraying.
Yeah, I think part of the reason for Cosby's success, and it came on really fast, even in his underground period when he's making records and shit, he was the kind of guy who was real accessible by your average white person.
Yeah.
Your average white dude could feel like he had a lot in common with him.
Yeah.
That may not be the same situation with, say, like Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor, his mom was a hooker. He grew up in a brothel.
Yeah.
Okay. Which he spun that. People loved Richard Pryor.
Because Richard Pryor is fucking hilarious.
He was funnier than Bill Cosby, if you ask me.
I agree with that.
And I liked Richard Pryor better than fucking...
I did as well.
But even as wild as Richard... From the mainstream white point of view, as wild as Richard Pryor's fucking genesis was, he was real relatable.
Yeah.
Too. But he had an underground edginess to him.
Yeah.
That Cosby didn't have. Cosby was like the dude from Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah.
The father from Leave It to... He was like that. But still funny.
He was kind of wholesome.
Wholesome, yeah. On the surface.
On the surface, but obviously not. Like I said, you got to watch. Anybody that cultivates a persona like that, like on purpose, I always am very, very suspicious of people like that. But yeah, well, the thing about it is that, well, I mean, to do effective comedy, you have to be somewhat relatable to your audience. Like, if the audience has no fucking clue what you're talking about, they're just going to be bewildered. It's not going to be funny. So you have to find some kind of common ground with your audience, obviously, or people are not going to find you funny.
Right.
And I think that Bill Cosby in particular, because he came about, like, particularly in his stand-up comedy, which was kind of what he first got famous doing, was that when he was coming out, like, it was just kind of like, you know, it was the 60s, so it was just kind of this bigger, and there was a lot of other black comedians, and he got some shit from them for specifically not talking about race or addressing race in his stand-up, which a lot of them did, because that was what was going on, you know, kind of in the zeitgeist. And he made an argument, and I actually do kind of see where he's coming from. He wanted to make his comedy sort of, he didn't say it like this, but I think he just wanted to make his comedy like universal, and he thought that would be better for quote-unquote race relations. He's like, because if I tell a story about my childhood that some random-ass white dude can relate to, then hey, we're just the same. You know what I mean? Like, you can relate to me, I can relate to you, which I get that. That's a valid argument.
It's a valid argument.
That's a valid argument.
But
the other side, that's a valid argument too. I get that. Like, why he wasn't addressing it.
But then also, fucking, at least for my generation, listening to Pryor's stories, that was also relatable too. I could imagine it. And you're listening to me go, yeah, but Pryor's a good dude. Yeah, he got into all this trouble. He came from a fucking rough background, but he's still a good dude, and he's like me. Yeah, that's the thinking.
Yeah.
So it does, because like, you know, people are all generally good. So that's what you walk away from when you're dealing with Pryor.
Yeah.
You know. So both styles work. They're both true.
And I like both kinds of comedians. I don't think that comedians have to be like super edgy or, you know, swear a lot or whatever, like to be funny. It's probably harder to be funny if you don't do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of like comedians that just kind of tell stories. I like ones that don't. And he kind of did that. He was more like a storyteller. I'm not really a fan of comedians that just tell like jokes, like set up punchline kind of joke. I don't really like that. I like ones that just tell kind of like stories that just happen to be funny, that aren't like obvious jokes or like obvious setups. So he was very good at that. And honestly, the comedy film that he did, the stand-up film, which was called what was it called? Bill Cosby Himself, that came out in the early 80s. I think it was 83. We taped that off HBO and we watched it like a million times. I was probably like 11 or 12 years old when we saw it, and we just thought that was one of the funniest things ever. I still remember bits of it. We saw it so many times. So some of his shit. Now I have seen some clips of his old stand-up, like from the 60s and early 70s. Not as funny. Like, I didn't really find it all that funny. Maybe it was funnier in context. I'm not really sure.
Humor has an expiration date.
It does.
I go back and watch early fucking, like, you can listen to Eddie Murphy's Delirious album, and it's not funny. Not today. It was funny back then.
Back then it was funny.
Because people didn't talk that way. Or at least white kids didn't talk that way.
Yeah.
So we were fucking laughing. And we already liked Eddie Murphy by the time that album came out. Because we saw him on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
You know, so he had a warm audience.
Right.
That's part of it. Even though Eddie's good. Eddie's good. And somebody mentioned, like, you know, what audacity did Cosby have for chiding
Eddie Murphy
for his language? Well, he was raping women at the same time. Yeah.
Well, as we will discover, one of the reasons that the allegations against him went viral in 2014 was not because of Eddie Murphy, but because of another black comedian named Hannibal Buress, who was making jokes about it. Because, like I said, I kind of feel like in the comedy world, a lot of people knew about it. You know what I mean?
A lot of somebody's in the comments saying, "Where's the strong evidence for this?" There was strong evidence. He got enough to get convicted because everybody knew. In one case, a lot of people knew.
Well, he got convicted in one criminal trial and one civil trial. The civil trial was the girl was 16, I think, 15 or 16 at the time of the incident.
It was just kind of a situation where there was a lot of women in his sphere.
And all of their stories were very similar. Like, he had
the shit that he was doing,
pattern of behavior, and I feel like other people knew. Like I said, it was kind of like an open secret at the time.
CB, he called it. He's in there. I read it. He said that serial murder and serial rape are the same thing. It's like a fetish, and that Cosby had a rape fetish. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but he had his own fucking. He didn't like it to be forcible, most likely, or he wouldn't use drugs. He liked to have power over an unconscious woman. There was a Japanese guy who killed 2 women who was into that. And he was a rich kid in Japan who would get white hostesses, you know, those hostesses, they're like a Japanese type hooker, and take them to his apartment and drug them. And do shit with them, just videotape him. He'd hang him up by one leg, you know what I mean, like a doll, and play with them and shit. And he wouldn't even actually, I'm not sure he actually had sex with them. But 2 of them died from the drug overdoses. Well, he's in prison. Yeah. And he just would drop them off at the hospital. They didn't know what happened to the woman. She just died of it. But they found those videotapes. And that, if you ask me, is a rape fetish.
Yes.
It's just it's not what's called an aggravated or a forcible rape where you're jumping on a woman with a knife and you're knocking them out. And then, see, they got videotapes of this Japanese dude basically gloating over the fucking unconscious woman. Like he has total control over her.
Yeah, I think that's
all I think that's about.
It's a power trip.
Total control power trip, and you can hang her up by one leg.
He can do whatever he wants, and she can't do anything.
You do it, you know. And here's the thing: those chicks he had already paid to have sex with them.
Right.
So that's not what he was after.
No.
At all.
Like I said, it's the kink of it.
It was the kink.
And I think, like I said, in Bill Cosby's case, this was a famous, wealthy, powerful, fairly good-looking dude. he could have had any woman he wanted.
Yeah.
Willingly.
He wasn't a bad-looking guy. He had a brand.
Yeah.
You see his face with Bill Cosby?
Like I said, he dated some women consensually, and then for whatever for a while, and then for whatever reason, he's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to drug and rape this one too, even though she's been giving me sex willingly for however long.
Yeah, that's the weird. Unlike the Cosby Show, Bill was into white girls. He liked white girls.
A lot of them were white. Yeah.
Yeah. He liked
Not all of the victims were white, but a large percentage.
That was his
were.
main thing. Which that was his socioeconomic class. So.
And here's the crazy thing to me. His wife, because he was married, they had 5 kids.
Yeah.
Which he talked about a lot in his stand-up. His wife, Camille, who he married in the 60s, I believe she was 19. They met at, like, college or whatever.
Yeah.
And she has stood by him this whole entire time. Even though he has admitted, I don't think she believes any of the, I mean, I guess she can't, because that's just, she doesn't want to believe that. But she doesn't believe all the, sexual assault allegations. But he has admitted to having at least 2 extramarital affairs.
Yeah.
And that's okay with her, I guess. I don't really know.
Some women are very understanding. She loves her man.
I mean, I've seen interviews, like, with the 2 of them were talking and stuff like that, and you could kind of see by her face that she doesn't love it.
Yeah.
But I think she's trying to, I think she likes the money, and and this is a while back, they're both old now. But, I think she liked the money and the status and everything like that, and she didn't want to do anything to fuck that up or, like, rock the boat. Yeah. And, they had some kids together, maybe she didn't want to mess that up or whatever, so it's just kind of like...
Look, man, people like Jen's being amazed at the tolerance of women. Okay, I'm more amazed at the tolerance of men. They got dudes right now, young guys right now, letting their wives and girlfriends date other dudes, and then what I mean. That whole fucking like cuck shit is going on too. That's more common than people think.
It is very common.
Yeah,
I get it. But like I said, I don't really want to do that particularly.
No, well, it's kind of like what they're doing. What they're fucking around with is they're trying to sexualize that "don't take me for granted" energy.
Yeah, I get it.
That's what they're doing.
Like, I get the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
But just because I get the reasoning behind it doesn't mean I would necessarily want to do it, or it's really my thing. Like, sometimes it's fun to like fantasize about it or think about it or something like that. I'm not really. You're kind of more into thinking about that than this. I have kind of the opposite thing. We have like a hot wife, hot husband thing.
Yeah, we like the idea.
We like the idea, but it's like I don't
of her doing some shit behind my back, and it might be doing. She more likes me doing shit behind her back. I don't do shit behind.
Like
her
I don't want him to do that for real. But it's just like I like him to like make up stories about it. Like for some reason,
so I gotta lie about cheating on her.
Yeah, so it's like I just like him making up stories about it. So like I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought it was weird, but then like I said, how weird is this? And so I was like,
it's pretty common.
It's actually like more common than I thought. I'm like, phew, okay. Yeah. Not that I care if I'm a weirdo. I know I'm a weirdo. But
here's the thing with me. I don't really fetishize it that much because I always took that shit for granted. Being a young goth guy, fucking growing up in the 90s and the 80s and shit like that. Most of the girls I was dating were bad girls. They're strippers and shit like that. And a lot of them were dating other guys at the time I'm dating them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really exclusive relationship.
Right.
So that was just part of the thing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of different. If you're just like dating other people and there's no understanding of exclusivity, then you can't be mad.
So that was kind of like the default setting.
The default setting, yeah.
All right. But then you start having relationships with some of them, and you're always like, did that bitch cheat on me? Did she? I think she fucked that dude. Yeah. If you suspect she fucked that dude. You're just gonna have to fucking swallow it.
It's kind of true the other way around. Like I kind of feel like women usually have good instincts about that kind of shit too. Like if you think your dude's up to something, he's probably like 99% of the time, it's very likely that he's up to something. But because your gut usually doesn't lie, not about stuff like that.
But Jen will tell you, I'm protective. You lay one finger on her in the club, I'm beat the fuck out of you.
He's done it.
I've done it, all right? But I'm not jealous.
No.
I'm not jealous, though.
But I don't really do anything to make you jealous either. No. And not because I think you'd be mad, it's just it doesn't occur to me.
I was coming out of the John one time in the club, and there was a dude, and as I was looking at the end of the bar where she was at, and a dude was hitting her up and asking her if she wanted a drink, and I just hold up and let Jen handle it. You know, and she's like, oh, no, thank you, this and that. You know? And I'll hold it against the dude. He's doing his job.
Yeah, and he just thought I was by myself, and he wasn't mean or rude or nothing. He was just, he was nice. I wasn't a bitch about it. Now, if you come at me all sideways, then I'm going to be his thunder cunt. But
he didn't see me. You know, so it's not like he was going behind my back.
Yeah,
or
like
anything.
I said, you were in the bathroom.
I was in the bathroom when he showed up, and he just saw what he thought was a single woman, and he asked her if he wanted a drink.
Yeah, just shoot his shot. You know what I mean?
It fucking that's a man's job.
That's fine.
You're supposed to do that.
I'm not bothered.
Now, if she'd asked for the drink, I was like, okay, well, how's this shit?
Well, I already had one anyway.
She already had one. I bought her a drink.
And it's just kind of like...
It's not really in her nature to do that. So.
And it's not... Yeah, like I said, I'm not... I'm a very open like, pretty much everything is... everything you see, everything is on the surface. I don't hide shit. I'm just not that kind of person.
Yeah.
And... I mean, I feel bad. This is dumb. But, like, I'm such a nice, people-pleasing person sometimes that if somebody, like, genuinely comes up and is nice to me, it's like, hey, can I buy you? It's like, I kind of feel like an asshole saying no, but I will say no.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, inappropriate.
Yeah. But they got dudes out there that would be in that position, they'd be mad. And they want to beat the dude's ass. What are you talking about, man? That's in the rules.
Yeah. Like I said, if somebody came up and was being shitty, then we'd be mad.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. He was just nice.
And then I've been on a dance floor and had some dude just go up and just fucking just leer at her. And I was like, hey, that's my wife.
Yeah.
And I shut that down fucking.
Yeah. But if somebody just comes up and is nice, and I nicely, I already got a drink, or I'm married, or whatever, and if they're cool, sorry to bother you, blah, blah, and then they walk away, fine. No harm done. No one's mad. Nothing bad is going to happen. You know what I mean? It's only if you come up and be a shit, or if you won't leave, or you won't take no for an answer. I've had that happen a few times. You know what I mean? Then we're going to have a problem. But if you just came up like that, dude, and I don't even really remember what the dude looked like or nothing, but he was just very nice. He was very respectful. It's like he just wanted to buy me a drink and stuff, and I was just like, nice back, and I was just like, no, it's okay, I've got a drink, and I'm just waiting for I don't think we were married then, but I said I'm waiting for my boyfriend or whatever, and he's just like, oh, okay, cool, have a good night or whatever, and I was just kind of like, okay, that was it. That's how all of those interactions should go. However, most of them do not, sadly. But yeah, so the thing about this, like I said, it had to be he has to have some kind of like kink, because I'm not sure, I'm sure most of you are probably aware, but at this point it's like 62 women that have accused him of it, and those are just the ones that are speaking out. I'm sure it was probably more than that, because this is over several decades. Some people are probably just like, I don't want to get involved in that mess or whatever, so I'm just going to keep that shit to myself. And I'm assuming that there's probably a lot of those.
That juice got a lot better, didn't it?
Oh, okay. Did it? Okay. Yeah. He made some blueberry lemonade, like, to put our vodka in. We're trying it out, like, different sugar ratios and stuff. But that's the thing. Like I said, he had girlfriends.
Yeah.
He had consensual sexual relationships with mistresses. He had mistresses for, extended periods of time, and yet he still felt the need to drug and rape women. Women that he was in consensual sexual relationships with.
It wasn't the power trip that he was looking for.
That's what I mean. Elizabeth Jack says, I don't think I know 62 people. 62 is insane. Yeah. It is, yeah. And Erica Lynn says Bill Maher said he knew he was a creep. Yeah, and I don't remember if I mentioned that, but I was listening to I might have mentioned it, but I was listening to a documentary, and there was two comedians talking. One of them was Bill Maher. I don't remember who the other one was. But Bill Maher said, I heard he was a creep like in 1983. And then the other comedian said, I heard about it in the early 90s, like 94 or something like that. So, like I said, a lot of comedians knew that he was doing this shit, or suspected that he was doing this shit. And so I don't think these allegations come out of nowhere. The crazy thing is that after all this shit come out, I don't really know if he has like a lot of defenders anymore. I'm sure he probably does. But one of the weirdest things is that some people that defend him think that this is all some kind of orchestrated conspiracy theory, because some nebulous they somewhere got mad at him for trying to by NBC in the 90s. And so they paid all these women to like come out and say that. I was like, that is a ridiculous allegation. Ridiculous. But, you know, some people will kind of do all kind of mental gymnastics, I guess. Just to me, it's like much more likely that, because look, dudes in the entertainment industry, actually dudes in any industry, but in the entertainment industry, probably more than most other industries, are, if you allow them to be shitty, they're going to be shitty. I mean, they just are.
Especially the old entertainment.
Especially, yeah, and especially that if they have money and power and shit like that, 95% of the time they are going to abuse it. So when that comes out about them later, you shouldn't be shocked. They're just going to be shitty.
Younger people have a hard time grasping the way the old media was. Everything was going through just a few little channels and some movie theaters. If someone was famous, they were fucking famous. Everybody knew them.
Yeah.
If you were to meet that person in person, you'd be starstruck.
Yeah.
You would think that was like a demigod.
Yeah.
And they would run through civilian people. Basically.
Well, this dude
is what they did.
Certainly did.
Yeah. The dudes
Allegedly.
could fuck any women, and then you couldn't get rid of... But what ends up happening a lot of times, though, to those celebrities of the old school type, they realized it was very dangerous to date regular people, regular women, because they'd stalk you, or you couldn't get rid of them, or they would sue you, or shit like that. So a lot of times what they did was escorts.
Yeah.
Because they could get rid of her.
Because they could just pay you and you wouldn't say anything.
Yep, and then you get out of here. So a lot of the escorts, a lot of the very high-end escorts were in celebrity circles. You know, fucking, with what's his name, fucking Charlie Sheen. They're porn stars and escorts.
See, that's the thing. I think that there was like a lot of, kind of blowback about that. But it's like, look, everyone was an adult. He was paying for it. It was consensual. I really do not have a problem. It was just kind of like remember back in, I don't remember what year it was a long time ago. Remember when Hugh Grant got busted with like the trans prostitute or whatever?
Yeah, and so did Eddie Murphy.
And Eddie Murphy did too, and it's like, and everybody flipped the fuck out. I'm like, so fucking what?
Although,
like I said, everyone's an adult and he paid for the
Eddie
service.
Murphy situation was gray.
That's true.
In those days, Eddie Murphy would ride around L.A. area, in the Hollywood area, in his fucking Ferrari. Basically unemployed because he was in between movies.
Right.
And he was making friends with the hookers. And one of them happened to be trans. And they evidently became friends. Now, whether or not they were fucking around, probably. But I don't think it was an exclusive thing. I think they were probably more friends, too.
Like friends with benefits in this situation.
Yeah, I saw a photograph of her. She was very passable. Black girl. And she said she only told the media one thing, which I think she thought the shit was cute, but it stuck with Eddie forever. Basically, she said, he likes feet. He likes my feet.
Which, again, that's not weird.
He likes my feet, yeah. And
why would people freak out about a lot of people like feet?
She didn't really say he had a foot fetish.
Even if she did, so what?
For all you know, she's jumps in to his Ferrari, he's riding around, and she's got fucking some shoes on. She goes, you got some cute feet. Could have been just that.
Could have been.
Could have been just that.
Or she could have been jerking him off with her feet.
You don't know.
Which, again,
you don't know.
That's not weird.
He's in his own Ferrari with his own money.
I'm sorry, but that's not weird.
With his own T-girl, okay.
That's what I mean.
It's
okay.
He's not fucking molesting. All right.
No one's underage.
Right. Yeah.
No one's being drugged.
You're right.
No one's doing anything without their consent. It's all fine.
Eddie has a very macho.
Yeah, but
fucking and in those days, that shit was fucking like super kinky. You're like, oh man, CK.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's.
Which is kind of hilarious to me. It's just kind of like that everyone
But I
got
remember
so
people of
pearl
the time.
clutchy about
I
it.
remember people of the time, yeah, because they were like, "Who's gay? Gay?" Because
oh my god.
Well, you know who was really fucking with Eddie is that gay people were fucking with Eddie because he would fucking tell jokes about gay people in his fucking stand-up, and they would consider that to be insulting, like the woo with the sirens, the gay police, which is just funny, man. Yeah. He's not fucking hating on people. He must have had gay friends. He's in Hollywood. You know what I mean? You're going to know gay people.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to hate on gay people.
And he was fucking, evidently running around with a little cute tranny chick. who was selling it, you know, and maybe they were just friends, maybe not, you know. But he was doing other shit too.
That's what I mean.
It wasn't his main squeeze, if she was a squeeze, but
well,
I just think this shit's funny. I just think it's funny that
I think it's funny that anyone would get
on the back of that. Eddie Murphy thought of as the kinky tranny foot fetish dude.
Right,
for a while.
That's so stupid.
And he kind of bowed out of the fucking movie scene for a while, which he shouldn't have done. He should have gone
meanwhile,
in there.
wholesome ass Bill Cosby is doing this shit,
right? Yeah,
which is obviously not okay. Like what Eddie Murphy was doing, totally fine.
Yeah,
totally fine. Nothing weird about that at all.
I'm still a huge fan of Eddie Murphy.
It's totally fine.
And Beverly Hills Cop 4 was great. Remember that? Beverly Hills Cop 4 was great.
Yeah, I remember it.
He's coming out with good movies.
Yeah.
Just keep making some good movies, Eddie.
Yeah, I like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, he's good.
Full Metal Nosferatu says, in Eddie Murphy Raw, and I've seen that a million times, but I only just remember this, said he talked about Cosby whining about the swearing.
Yeah.
And he told Richard Pryor, who was Cosby's co-star in California Suite, and Pryor said, tell Bill, have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Have a Coke and a smile was a fucking tagline for Coca-Cola for a while. Have a Coke and a smile. Have a Coke and a smile, shut the fuck up. Yeah. It might have been an inside job because fucking Richard Pryor loved cocaine.
Well, that too.
So it might have been snort some coke and shut the fuck up. Might have been what it would have been.
Yeah,
might have been play on that.
I don't know. Bill Cosby was way more into Quaaludes, as we'll see.
Yeah.
And someone said earlier too that I think Bill Cosby was like on. Didn't he say he was on the Osbournes and was like said something to Sharon Osbourne about like Ozzy swearing and Sharon Osbourne told him to shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
I was like, sweet.
Yeah. His power had waned by that point.
Well, yeah, I kind of feel like by the time the 90s rolled around, he was mostly like an 80s. I mean, he was very
70s,
famous.
80s.
Yeah, he was very famous like starting in the 60s, but like I feel like 70s and 80s were like his heyday. By the time the 90s rolled around, he still had shows and he was still like people still knew who he was.
He was old hat.
But he was like kind of passe at that stage. So he maybe didn't have the pull that he once had and the power that he once had, and he couldn't maybe get away with shit. Although he was still doing this crap up until the 2000s. So, just saying. But yeah, so I don't know. I just this whole thing. I was thinking today. I was like, why is it so hard for some people to just like not be shitty? Some people seem to find it very, very difficult.
It's not in their nature.
I find it very easy to not be shitty, and I just kind of feel like most people find it easy to not be shitty.
It's very easy to be what your nature is. Okay, and their nature is to
just stop being terrible. Like, stop it. Why is it hard? Just don't do that. Duh. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Just, I don't know. Maybe because I've never been in this position. I've never been a powerful person with a lot of money who everybody wants shit for me and, like, I can do all this shit for them. And
then my boy Zach in there, he's saying he associates fucking Eddie Murphy with the first time he sees him with that Haunted Mansion movie. I go, boy.
Which I don't think I've ever seen.
I've never seen it, but that was towards the end. That was it.
That was when he was trying to be more family friendly.
Yeah, his career was tanking.
Which...
No.
Don't do that, Eddie. That's like not. That's not why we love you.
No. You want to see his early movies when he was still kind of underground. Fucking Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2.
Be raunchy and mean.
Fucking 48 Hours, pretty good. The Golden Child. I fucking love that movie.
What a weird ass movie that was.
Yeah, weird movie. Still cool though.
I had forgotten how fucking weird that movie.
It's a weird kind of like fucking indie.
I saw it a million times in the 80s, like because it was on cable like every 5 minutes.
It's an indie supernatural thriller.
But we watched it like a couple years back. I'm like, this is a fucking weird. I forgot how fucking weird. In the 80s, like there'd be this fucking premise that somebody that was like hopped up on goofballs and coke and everything like that came up with, and you're like, all right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you just went with it. But when you watch it now, you're like, what the fuck? Like, what were they on?
Fuck all that Dr. Doolittle shit. Nah, fuck all that.
No. All his family shit.
All
like,
family shit, no.
Well, honestly, like, most family-friendly movies are bullshit, and you don't want to watch them.
Yeah, Coming to America was good. Coming to America. Okay, and then leap forward into the modern era. You want fucking Dolomite Is My Name. Fucking epic.
That was so fucking good.
Yeah, fucking Coming to America 2, pretty good. Beverly Hills Cop 4, very good. Very good.
Yeah,
I want to buy it. I want to see it again.
Like
yeah. But a lot of the shit that he was in the 90s and the early 2000s, and he was like in his doldrums.
Yeah, so he was just trying, people got to eat, you know what I mean? So he's just trying to get work, and
Murphy's best in underground things that he's producing.
Well, where he can just be...
He can be himself.
Right, yeah. Like, he doesn't have to, like, clean his act up or nothing like that.
Right.
Because, like I said, if you're not naturally like that, then don't try to be like that.
And Vampire in Brooklyn, where he played a vampire.
That's a little underrated, I feel.
One of my favorite vampire movies. Right up there with fucking Blackula and Scream, Blackula, Scream. It's a legit vampire movie.
Yeah,
pretty good.
It's pretty good, actually. Tammy Stemba says a long time ago, Eddie Izzard is always funny. Yes, I agree. Eddie Izzard is always funny, always and forever. And he's another one that basically just tells stories and just like riffs on. And sometimes he's got like a topic and he just like improvises. So he just comes up with crazy shit. And it's more and more absurd, and it's just like funnier and funnier and funnier. And that takes like fucking talent. Because like any hack comedian can write jokes. I kind of feel like being an actual storyteller who can just stand up there and like naturally, organically, like just tell stories and they're just funny, like without doing like the whole setup punchline kind of thing, or at least not doing it obviously. I think that's much, much harder and much, much rarer. And I tend to like comedians that are more storytellers rather than joke tellers. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't really follow a lot of comedians anymore. But I used to, like back in the 80s and 90s, because man, HBO used to have all those fucking comedy specials all the time. And I taped a lot of them and watched them. And so I was like kind of up on all the comedians like back in the fucking 90s, you know? But I kind of lost track of all of it. Like, and I don't even know what happened to some of those comedians. Like some of my favorite ones from back at that time were... I really liked Paula Poundstone, and I really liked Jake Johansson. What the fuck ever happened to him? God, he was fucking hilarious. And he was another one that was just like a storyteller, and like some of his shit was just like so fucking weird. It was so
Ron
awesome.
Richardson, and he's in there defending fucking Trading Places, which I remember really liking that one. I gotta buy that one.
I didn't like it as much when I saw it again, but I still like it.
I want to see it again.
I don't like it as much as I liked it back in the 80s, but I still like it. Well, same with The Golden Child.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about Eddie Murphy movies, which, it's kind of a tangent, but whatever. That's kind of what we do.
And
in case you're new here.
Florence Lupin's, she's defending the family-friendly stuff, like on... Some of it, okay, like Nutty Professor. Was it Nutty Professor?
Didn't he do a remake of... Was it Nutty Professor?
Nutty Professor. I thought it was funny.
I don't think I saw it.
But it didn't quite have the edge that I was used to. I might revisit the family-friendly shit. You could probably watch it for free. So
I imagine you probably can.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd buy it. I would probably buy Trading Places, though. I don't have it in my collection. And I remember that as a kid. I remember seeing it and liking it. But it wasn't one that really stuck with me.
Right. Not like Beverly Hills Cop did.
Or fucking...
Beverly Hills Cop is still
Or
funny.
Golden Child.
Yeah, Golden Child I liked a lot. Back in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
When I saw it again recently, I still liked it, but I didn't like it as much as I liked it back then.
Well, you didn't realize how low budget that was.
Yeah, that was one thing.
It comes off very low budget.
Man, Charles Dance was in that.
There's something very charming about that movie, though.
I love how weird the premise is. Yeah. I love that everybody in the 80s was just like, all right.
Yeah, weird premise. He's a dude.
And I'm just like...
Eddie Murphy plays a dude. His job is to find missing children.
Yeah.
Like that's a job. It's not a job.
Well, unless you're a detective.
He wasn't a detective. He was just some dude walking around. I'm going to find these missing children. It was just a premise.
I was like, who pays you, sir?
It's just a premise to fucking have the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's still a very cool movie. A lot of fucking original thinking in it. And the demon and shit. You remember that?
Yeah.
You must have the golden child. Remember the devil fucking talk? Because it's supernatural.
Yeah.
They were trying to
fucking weird, you guys.
They were trying to get the golden child to fucking eat the fucking bloody bread and shit so they could get inside of him.
It's set in Tibet.
It's in Tibet, yeah.
Eddie Murphy in Tibet.
Yeah.
With demons.
Yeah.
It's something.
The Ashanti dagger. The devil's talking. You must find the Ashanti dagger.
And he's just like wisecracking through the whole bizarre ass situation.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Florence Lupin says, I've never seen Eddie Murphy's adult work, though. I'm ashamed to admit.
Oh, yeah, you should see it.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of think, like his stand-up, like Raw, is probably not as funny as it was at the time, but it's probably still kind of funny.
It's not that.
Some of it hasn't dated all that well.
Some of Mel Brooks isn't as funny. Like History of the World isn't funny anymore to me.
Spaceballs is still funny.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
If you haven't Blazing Saddles is still funny. Young Frankenstein is still funny.
If you want to go back and see Eddie Murphy's adult stuff from there, you see Beverly Hills Cop 1 and then 2. You'll like that. You'll like those. And then see Golden Child. And then see Vampire in Brooklyn.
It's weird.
His vampire movie. It's a solid vampire flick. It's got some comedy in it. It's got some of his regular guys that he has in there, but it's still a solid flick. Very much like a Dracula kind of flick. It's good.
It's a vampire movie. Florence says, it's still insane to me, the Cosby allegations. I hadn't seen much of Cosby's work as a kid, but I loved watching Little Bill, which kind of takes on a different connotation nowadays, doesn't it? His show for preschool kids. I was at the right age when it came out. Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of feel like maybe a lot of people forget. Like, we remember because we're Gen X, but Bill Cosby did a lot of, like, kids shows in the 70s. Yeah. I specifically remember Picture Pages, which might have been 80s. I don't know. Maybe I saw it when I was little. He was on Sesame Street. He was on The Electric Company, which I definitely saw in the 70s. Morgan Freeman was on that, too, matter of fact. I think he even did a sketch, at least one, with Bill Cosby. I think there was a sketch where they both did one together. And those were, like, kids shows. And obviously he did the animated show, like, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, which I also saw a lot when I was growing up, which was kind of based on his own experiences kind of growing up in the quote-unquote projects, like in Philadelphia, which is where he grew up. But, yeah, it's kind of shitty because Bill Cosby, I kind of feel like this was another thing, like I said, and this is why I said, if you're from the UK, this is probably, like, sort of akin to the Jimmy Savile case. This is somebody that a lot of Americans had grown up with, and he had this very wholesome persona. He did a lot of kids shows. He was just known as a kind of a clean comedian that, like, everyone could relate to. He just told, like, funny stories about his childhood, about his family, like, once he had kids, like all the crazy stories about parenthood and things like. He even wrote books about it, about, like, raising kids and whatnot. And so for all of this to come out, that this whole entire time he was essentially a sexual predator, a lot of people got really upset about that, because it just goes to show how somebody can just kind of, I don't even want to say hide in plain sight. It's just the fact that you can just put on this mask and everyone thinks you're this one way and you're just really not that way. What's crazy? I was watching this documentary about him, which was actually really good. I think it was called Bill Cosby Walking Free. And it was made, like, not too long after he got released from prison in 2021. And it's really good. It was like an hour and a half, and it really went in depth, like, into his past, into his background and stuff. And it basically said on there that I kind of forgot where I was going with that. What was I going to say? Shit, I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know. I wasn't listening. I was reading comments.
Yeah, I know. I'll remember in a second.
Yeah, fucking CB said that fucking Eddie Murphy's Delirious aged badly. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, his stand-up didn't age well. Yeah. But in the day, it was fucking great.
It was very funny in the day. And Raw was funny in the day, because I remember seeing that a lot.
And it will not, because Dave Chappelle's fucking comedy, his stand-up is fucking, that shit will not age as badly as Eddie Murphy's did. But Eddie Murphy was still great, though. He was great.
Yeah, well, like you said, comedy, depending on what it is, but comedy kind of doesn't age as well as maybe some other genres. Because shit that's funny
Murphy's
is not...
stand-up was very trendy, having to do with things that were happening at the time. Chappelle is mostly fucking telling stories about friends. And comedy that's based around
that
stories
ages better.
That ages a lot better.
Like I said, stuff that's about stories that's not really topical.
You're right.
Because obviously topical shit is going to date.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not going to be funny. Like, 30 years from now, people are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Because they're making references to stuff you don't remember.
Full Metal Nosferatu says, Golden Child, some believes the same universe as Big Trouble in Little China. I would not doubt that. And then he also
that seems about right.
About right. And then he goes on to say, Trading Places is great for the holidays. That probably is good. I got to see it. I gotta see it.
Maybe we should watch that at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah. But yeah, I was just going to say that, I don't know, I think the scary thing about this is that somebody that had this kind of persona all this time, was doing all this shit behind the scenes, and I think it just kind of, I don't know, maybe it kind of broke people's brains or something. Because like I said, it's one thing to think of like some dude that's just, you know, that was already kind of a creep, or was already kind of a dick. And it's like, yeah, he has all these sexual assault allegations. You're like, ooh, shocker. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really surprised. But this dude, everybody was fucking surprised. Well, except for people in the entertainment industry that knew the shit was going on, or suspected that it was going on for like a really long time.
That's right. You said fucking Vampire Brooklyn was directed by Wes Craven.
It was, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I like the movie. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, Wes Craven's the man.
Yeah, that's a good team.
He's the man.
It's a solid vampire flick. Now, it's kind of comedy, but it's not goofy. It has some goofy characters in it, but it's supposed to. It's the tone. You'll understand the tone when you see the movie.
Yeah.
It's good. Vampire romance. Kind of like Dracula. He's coming to America to find his woman type of deal.
Yeah.
And he finds that woman at? He finds a woman who used to be a vampire, used to be his wife or something, reincarnated. Kind of like Dracula.
Yeah, that's very similar. That's a lot of vampire stories are like that. Yeah, CB said the BBC protected Jimmy Savile, and authors and networks did the same thing for Bill Cosby, unfortunately. Yeah, like I said, it seemed like he got away with a lot of shit. And the sad thing, and I think even some like black comedians have brought this up, even if they think that, or they agree, I guess, that Bill Cosby is a serial rapist, which I think he was, you know, he did do a lot of good for the community. Like, he did give millions of dollars to black universities, like, he funded scholarships, like, he did all this other stuff. But that makes me wonder if he was doing that stuff to, like, atone for the shit that he was doing. Maybe in some, like, tiny, deep part of his self, he felt bad about it. So he's like, I gotta overcompensate by, like, giving all this money. Like, here's the thing, though. The Cosby Show, if you're not from the United States or you didn't grow up in the 80s, The Cosby Show, which started in 1984, and I think it ran till 92? No, because, well, it ran a long time. And then there was a spinoff, A Different World, with Lisa Bonet, which he had a hand in, too.
She was cute.
She was, yeah.
Real cute.
And, but I don't think, it's really hard to overstate what a cultural, like, that touchstone that was. That was one of the first times so I watched a lot of documentaries about it. It's like The Cosby Show, I want to say kind of erroneously said, was the first time that a black family was shown as like upper middle class. Not true, because the Jeffersons showed that. Yeah. Although it wasn't the same dynamic. The Jeffersons were like kind of a slightly older couple. They were business owners.
And they came from the hood.
They came from the hood and they moved up.
Yeah.
They lived in New York City. They had a.
It was a great
They
show.
had a son, but he was grown, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't their son grown?
I forgot. I don't remember all the.
So it wasn't.
Wheezy and George.
I used to watch it with my grandma. It was a good show. It was fun.
George Jefferson was basically the black Archie Bunker.
Yeah, but they were very upper middle class.
Rich.
He owned like a chain of laundromats or something.
Yeah, laundromats. They were a rich black couple. They were real successful. Had kids running around, and George Jefferson was basically like Archie Bunker. He was real bigoted.
Yeah,
he's kind of racist, you know, and but Wheezy would get his ass straight, and he kind of evolved over time. That's kind of like All in the Family with Archie Bunker. It was the same.
Yeah, it was like a black version of that. So, like I said, in the 70s, there had been black sitcoms. Obviously, there was Sanford and Son, and there was What's Happening, Good Times. Like a lot of I watched a lot of those when I was a kid. But I think that the Jeffersons might have been the first one to show like an upper middle class, like black family. Like
As
I said,
they came from the upper middle class. Too.
Yeah, they didn't. But like I said, I think the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
It was slightly different because it was more of a family dynamic. They lived in the suburbs.
Oh, I'm mistaken you. The Cosby Show. It was as if they came from the middle class.
Yeah.
But
whereas the Jeffersons came from the hood.
Yeah.
And made a lot of money, like made good,
Yeah.
and then moved up to this really nice apartment, like in a nice part of.
And then there was Sanford and Son, and that was
which was kind of more
single father,
which
in
was
a
kind of more
junkyard.
working class.
That was very working class, but that was also really good. A lot of morality.
It was
tales.
It was
real
funny.
good.
Well,
and Red Fox,
he was a funny dude.
hilarious. Yeah.
Well, and that was actually based on a British show called Steptoe and Son.
Mm-hmm.
But they were white. But it was the same dynamic.
Yeah.
But so there had been sitcoms like that before, but the Cosby Show was kind of the first one to show that particular dynamic, I guess. And apparently, Bill Cosby, even though I think he gets credit for the idea of the Cosby Show, as far as I could determine, it was not his idea, which I'll get into in a little bit, like what his actual idea for that show was. That was actually the idea of the producers, and he had to be kind of convinced to go along with it. But the thing about it was that I think that was the first time that had been shown. But he said that he consulted with like psychiatrists and stuff like that to make sure that there were no negative stereotypes or nothing like about black people in that show. Like he wanted everything to be very positively portrayed because that hadn't really been done to any large extent before. So it was like very revolutionary and very groundbreaking. And obviously that kind of paved the way for a lot of shows that came later on, like most notably probably The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you know, with Will Smith, which probably wouldn't have happened without The Cosby Show.
Yeah. I remember when that appeared, that show was extremely popular.
Yeah, it was.
I actually liked
huge.
the intro, the song in the middle. I was in the 80s. I was like, that's actually kind of cool. And I'd watch some of it, but I'd get kind of caught up, and I was like, nah, this isn't my thing, really. But it wasn't fucking contentious enough, you know what I mean? Fucking, like the Jeffersons was better, fucking Sanford Son, you know what I mean?
I really liked the Jeffersons,
I didn't
actually, when I was a kid.
See, here's the thing. I didn't really like the Cosby Show. I thought it was too vanilla.
I thought it was a little saccharine.
Yeah.
But it was like, half the fucking country watched that shit, which was a big deal. Like, it was on Thursday night. That was like their must-see TV lineup. You remember that? It was NBC or whatever it was.
White people getting their morality from that show.
Which is crazy in hindsight.
When you look back on it, yeah.
But at the time...
Yeah, it was a huge white following, huge.
I will note that a lot of the actors that played the kids on The Cosby Show, like Keisha Knight Pulliam and a couple other ones, actually, and the woman that played his wife, Felicia Rashad, right?
Yeah.
They came out in defense of Cosby. And as far as I know, they're still defending. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen any updates on that.
Yeah,
but,
he got freaky sometimes. That's what they're saying. Yeah, sometimes he got freaky.
Well, some of them said they just thought it was like an organized conspiracy against him.
It's too hard to make those.
And I'm just kind of
no.
The extent of the conspiracy you're describing is that's not feasible. I'm sorry. That's not feasible. Like I said, small conspiracies I buy, big conspiracies, no. There's just too many moving parts.
Funny thing, looking back on Cosby Show and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I don't think black people liked those shows too much. I think that was mostly white people that liked those.
Probably, yeah.
I think black people would have thought those were pretty much fake. You know.
Yeah, because they're like, this is nothing like my actual life.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But the thing about it is that even shows, but you had white people back in the '80s watching shit like Dallas and stuff. Yeah, and that was like nobody's life.
Like that. Yeah,
I knew it was like that.
Dynasty.
My life was more like Married with Children.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, I think that's why that show was a big success. They're like, finally, this is what an average American's life is like. Although their house was too big, I thought.
Man,
he worked at a shoe store, and she didn't work as far as I could determine. Yeah. No dude that worked at a shoe store could afford a house that big.
Right, yeah.
No way. I realized that even at the time. I'm like, why aren't they living in a trailer?
I tell you what, Christina Applegate was just fucking mind-blowingly hot for that time.
Yeah. She was actually supposed to be a more interesting character before, but I think they just decided to make her a dumb bimbo instead.
Yeah, she was just kind of bimbo.
But I guess that kind of worked, so I don't know. That was a funny-ass show.
Yeah.
But like I said, again, very groundbreaking for its time. Which I guess kind of Roseanne was too, but, because it actually showed working class, although their house was also too big.
If you go back and watch this shit, it's probably unwatchable, because it was canned as fuck.
It probably is.
Very canned.
But at the
time, you had no choice.
At the time.
And you didn't know any better.
Right. So, yeah. CB says, it says a lot that all shows about black people, Bill Cosby never made a cameo. Yeah, I think a lot of them kind of knew what was up, you know? And they were just kind of like, we're not going to... Well, and a lot of the black community, particularly comedians and stuff like that, did not really like that he was real... he was very moralistic. Once he got real famous... he was always kind of excoriating the black community for this, that, and the other.
They'd call him an Uncle Ruckus today.
Yeah, like, pull your pants up, like, you gotta pull yourself up by your bootstrap, or whatever the fuck. Like, he was saying shit like that, like, in a really denigrating kind of way. Like, if a white person said it, you'd be, like, really offended.
He didn't like any kind of gangbang culture. He didn't like any gangster rap or any of that shit.
Right, so it's just and I think a lot of people were kind of offended by that, and we're just like, look at this fucking, you know, or you call him like an Uncle Tom or something like that. So I think a lot of them kind of saw him like that. Ruckus. As somebody who actually did come from the projects. He did grow up in the projects in Philadelphia, and made good, and then thought he was going to look down his nose at everyone else because they didn't get the same opportunities as him, and decided he was going to shit on them. And so a lot of people did not really like that, and particularly like a lot of comedians, as we will see, like Hannibal Buress, the one that was bringing up the stuff about his rape allegations, which kind of got the investigation going again. He's just like, I hate these like old black smug motherfuckers like talking to all these young black people like, don't do this and don't do that, like all moralizing and shit.
But that is not just a uniquely black thing.
No, it's not.
Okay, you got fucking dudes, redneck motherfuckers that come from trailer parks that come out and all of a sudden they did shit on the fucking trailer parks.
Well, yeah.
The same.
Hey, I came from a trailer park.
You don't want to go back to the trailer park. And no black dude that I knew that came from the hood wanted to go back to the hood. They all fucking mainstream now. White girlfriends, or wives. And then all the black women that we know are all married to white guys. They don't want to go back to an all black neighborhood. They want to live in a mixed crowd.
Yeah, which, like I said, I get it. Like,
Yeah, they're not going to steal your shit. You go down to the fucking hood here, man, you get anything nice, they're going to steal it.
Well, they don't have anything. So
they don't have anything, so they're just
like, well, I'm just going to take that. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? Like I said, I get
so they don't want to live there. Nobody want to.
Like I said, I can speak less to that, obviously, because I didn't grow up in that. But I did grow up in a trailer park, and I did grow up, like, in a kind of rednecky kind of area. So it's like I get that kind of white trash kind of shit. I do get down on white trash sometimes for various reasons. Yeah. And I would also not want to go back to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
very limited way of seeing things.
But yeah, I do understand that, obviously poverty is its own thing, and it's like you don't get good schools, you don't get good nutrition, you don't get a lot of things.
You don't get good information.
So it's like, you're kind of hobbled from the start.
Internet, I think, is breaking through that, though. Anybody has a phone can go on the internet, they can get good information. And they're like,
or you can get horribly shitty information. You can do that.
The thing is that if you're in a fucked up environment, you can get out of it using the internet. And you're going, oh, yeah,
it is better.
I'm in a fucked up environment.
Yeah.
So if I get out of here, it's better. It's that.
Yeah,
that's all you had to know.
I do think, like, as shitty as some things on the internet are, I do think it has been a net good for humanity. Oh yeah, largely. It is a very democratizing.
Yeah.
To a degree, it's a democratizing influence, I think.
Oh yeah, I think it's increased everybody's intelligence too, in certain ways. Because you have access to information you never would have had access to. Maybe now you have access to artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
But no, you'll run across people that are from the hood or fucking rednecks that are into astronomy. Because they're watching astronomy channels and they've got their own YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's like everything is
And it's so no.
Which you never could have done that when we were growing up.
You could never done that when we were growing up. Never.
So, like, I love that about it.
Right,
I know people like to piss and moan, but it's like...
No, it's much better.
It is much better.
Yeah.
Like, you could never... And, growing up, like, how we grew up, like, with the goth scene and everything like that, was really hard, like, to get... Where are the clubs? Where are the clothes? Where is this and that and the other? We didn't know anybody else. Like, where I grew up, I knew zero other people that were, like, into the same shit until I got to high school. Then I met a couple of
What are the best bands? Do they have new albums? You didn't know.
Like, it was really hard, like, to get information. But now it's, like, super easy. So it's almost like people take it for granted. But that's fine. That's fine.
No, the internet is giving the opportunities for social mobility, socioeconomic mobility. You can move up.
If you know what you're doing,
you
can make money on the internet. Although it's getting harder because it's the market's kind of flooded at this stage. But you know what I mean.
That's just the way it is.
That's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Fullmetal Nosferatu says Jenny wasn't married with children. Original title going to be at least pitched as Not the Cosbys. I have heard that. I don't know if that's true or not. Erica Lynn said, I actually didn't believe it at first, the Bill Cosby allegations. When, who was it? Janice Dickinson, the supermodel, came out because she was saying terrible stuff about his murdered son, but then way too many women came forward. Here's the thing. So as I mentioned earlier, Bill Cosby did have 5 children. He had 4 daughters and 1 son, and his son, Ennis, was actually shot in a random and murdered in a random robbery, I guess, like robbery drive-by by a white guy. Wasn't a black guy. I believe it was 1997. So yeah, that's shitty. But that doesn't excuse his behavior, though. You know what I mean? People are complex, and as I was kind of saying earlier, it's that even though Bill Cosby was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and maybe probably opened the door for a lot of other black people in media going forward, because there was a lot of firsts, which we'll get into in a bit. So, you can't take that away from him, but he was also a shitty human being. People are complex, y'all. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on this whole separating from the art from the artist thing. Like, the stuff that people create, I mean, I guess you have to an extent. Because, look, if you were going to, just say, I'm not going to read books by this like Neil Gaiman or somebody like that, who recently came out, kind of recently came out as just also being a shitty human being, which that was kind of a bigger bummer to me than Cosby, but, whatever. I wasn't that surprised. So, can you still read their books? Can you still watch their movies? Can you still do this, that, and the other? Actually, a example I'm probably more familiar with is like Roman Polanski, because I love Roman Polanski's movies, but he's kind of a shit human being. You know what I mean? Kind of a shit human being.
He's a creep.
Kind of a creep.
Maybe he's changed, but he didn't do his time.
I mean, he's an old man now.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. I still like his movies, but I think he's a piece of shit person. I think he's a piece of shit. And same with Bill Cosby. I'm not, like I said, I was never like a huge fan. Like, I liked his stand-up. I don't think I ever bought anything by him. I didn't really watch The Cosby Show. Like I said, it was a little too vanilla for me, like even in the 80s. I was only in my teens in the 80s. But I was kind of more I wasn't really into sitcoms in the 80s. I wasn't really watching much TV. So I didn't really watch it. But I get like how culturally important it was. And like I said, that's not to say, and I'm going to say too, that Bill Cosby himself was not really the mastermind behind the idea of The Cosby Show. So I could always kind of thought, because it was called The Cosby Show, it was like, oh, that was his idea for a show. No, it wasn't. That wasn't his idea. His idea for The Cosby Show, if you'd like to know, was he was going to be a cab driver or a limousine driver. He wanted to do that because he wanted each show to have an extended sequence where he was driving the cab or the limo, and doing like bits from his stand-up, right? Which he's a comedian, you get it. It's kind of the Seinfeld show did that to a smaller extent. So he wanted that, and he wanted the wife to be Latina, and he wanted her to have kind of like a working class but more masculine profession, like a plumber or something. He thought that would be funny. So that was the idea that he pitched for The Cosby Show. He also said, I need $1 million a year, and it has to have my name on it. It has to be called The Cosby Show. And they were like, okay, but how about this? Like the 2 producers said. How about we make like an upper middle class family, and it's kind of based on your family, like 5 kids, 4 daughters and a son, just like him and his wife had. But you guys, he was a gynecologist on that show. I forgot about that. He was an OBGYN. Dr. Cliff Huxtable on the
Looking
Cosby
at
Show.
people's pussies.
Yeah, like all day long.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, okay.
Professional pussy liquor.
And his wife was a lawyer.
Yeah.
And they lived in a really nice house.
She's
and all this
handling
other
the
kind of
lawsuits.
stuff. He didn't like the idea, but they talked him into it. and it ended up working like gangbusters, obviously, as we all know. So, not really sure his original idea would have worked, because it seemed like it would have been like a kind of more working class kind of thing, and maybe that wasn't in the zeitgeist at the time. Like, for whatever reason, when the Cosby Show came out in 1984, that was like the exact right time. And it's just like, it got hugely, hugely popular. Like I said, it was a cultural phenomenon. Like, I don't even, like, who the fuck else got viewing numbers like that? Like, everybody watched that footage. Like, I didn't watch it, but a lot of people watched it.
It was as big as a Michael Jackson show.
It was massive.
Yeah, it was big.
Everybody watched that.
It was like one of the main fucking shows.
Man, I got beat.
Was that every day or was it once a week?
It was Thursdays.
Thursdays?
Yep. Thursdays, I think it was NBC.
Yeah, and then it would go into syndication and just run forever.
Well, not anymore, it don't.
No? Yeah, right, yeah.
They pulled it.
They pulled that shit. Wonder if you can get it. Maybe if anybody knows whether or not you can get the Cosby Show on fucking DVD. Wonder if you can get it. You probably can. Huh? CB thinks that fucking Cosby's son was killed for something that Cosby had done. I don't know. If you have any evidence, you can go ahead and drop that down in the comments section. But I don't know. All right, Florence Lupin is saying this sounds kind of fucked up, but celebrity allegations is the stuff that is my kind of fucking bread and butter. People watch serial killer true crime as a hobby. I watch celebrity allegation stuff as a hobby. Okay, well, I guess that's why you're with us tonight, because we'll do serial killer stuff too. Serial killer stuff, some paranormal. We haven't done any UFO stuff recently. There's all kinds of fucking stupid UFO shit coming out right now. I don't know if I believe it. It's coming out of the government. I think it's all fucking distraction.
I remembered something I was going to say a long time ago. Is that even one of Bill Cosby's teachers when he was a kid said that when he grew up, he should be an actor or a lawyer because he was a great liar. I thought that was kind of interesting. Because he was like, grew up, like he was the class clown. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he was super, super smart, but he really didn't give a shit about
I think Ron Richardson's saying that he's saying that he's a black guy, so he's conflicted about Bill Cosby.
That's what's so shitty about it. Like I said, that's what makes me so angry about the whole situation is that, dude, you could have just been the Bill Cosby that everybody thought. Yeah. Like, you could have been this magnanimous motherfucker that, like, got all these people starred in the industry, and it's like gave all this money to black universities and funded all these scholarships. You could have been a beloved figure, but you did all this shit. Like, why did you do that? Like, he had this amazing legacy.
Well, he might have been
if he had, like, not done any of that, like, he'd have been fucking sainted at this point.
He might have been like fucking Dennis Rader.
Like, he couldn't help himself.
It might have been like Dennis Rader, the BTK, where it was all compartmentalized.
I guess.
Where,
like I said, I got the feeling that he didn't think he was doing anything wrong.
It might have been all compartmentalized, where he thought he saw himself as that upstanding guy. That's kind of who he was. But then he had this little dark side. He had this little sneaky fetish he liked. He'd sneak that in.
It wasn't that sneaky.
But I don't think he thought that was him. But
maybe not.
But here's the thing: can you? I don't believe you can fucking quantify a dude or totally personify a dude based upon his sexual fucking activity, what his kinks. But when they break when they break a certain line, involving children and fucking rape and shit and fucking serial killing, you're like, no, that's kind of who you are.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Too far.
Like, if you get a thing, like I said, we were talking about it earlier with, like, Eddie Murphy and stuff like that. Like, other celebrities that have been caught, like, in quote-unquote compromising situations, like trans sex workers or whatever. Who fucking cares? Like I said, everyone's overage, somebody paid, it's like everyone's consenting.
It's back fine. In those days.
In those days, everybody flipped out.
It was shocking, yeah. They weren't exposed
to that. But the thing about it is that when you start being a predator towards people. You're, you're involving people who are underage, people who are not consenting, people who are drugged. Obviously, that's a whole different issue.
Yeah. But it wouldn't have been a different issue back in those days because people were kind of pedestrian.
That's what's kind of scary.
They would have been like, oh, no, they all freaky. Oh, they're those transsexual people, the toe-licking people, and the gay people, and the serial killers and the rapists, they're all the same.
When obviously that is not.
But you had a lot of fucking pedestrian people back in those days who thought that was all the same thing.
That's why people thought that like people saying that somebody had a foot fetish was like this big thing, like you were akin to being like a serial killer. I'm like, those two things are not remotely the same. Like, what are you? Why are you even equating them?
I never really got the foot fetish thing. Fucking Quentin Tarantino.
No, but a lot of people have.
I have a foot fetish, but not a foot, not a foot.
A shoe fetish.
A shoe fetish, but not a foot fetish.
Yeah, he likes shoes on the feet, but not so much the feet themselves.
Yeah,
he likes the way the foot looks in the shoe.
I like a fucking certain kind of shoes on feet. Fucking wicked, painful looking shoes. I love them.
Yeah.
If it looks like those are hard to walk in, I like them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not so bad.
My calves, not so much, but you know.
It's not so bad that I don't need the woman. There are some dudes that have it so bad, all they need is the shoe.
Yeah.
And I never had it that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dudes just buying shoes and jerking it to shoe.
Like I said,
I can't understand that.
I've always been the kind of person that it's like, look, are you hurting anybody? Is anybody doing anything against their will? Nope. Like maybe I wouldn't do it, but whatever. Knock yourself out.
I was watching this sexual psychologist.
It has literally nothing to do with me at all.
Yeah. I was watching this sexual psychologist guy. He's a gay guy, but he fucking understands fucking male fucking the mental works fucking very well. I don't remember the dude's name. He's fucking hilarious. He's saying what gets you off isn't necessarily you. It's just some kinky shit that's getting you off. Don't fucking focus in on it too much.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, people are multifaceted.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. And it's always, and he also mentioned something that fucking kind of rang true with me, is that it's always ever changing. Things are going in and out of style in you. Because, like, you get sick of one thing and you end up fucking fetishizing something else.
Yeah, I've had different things come and go.
Different phases and shit,
Yeah. It's like a few years ago I was kind of into one thing, and like, a few years later I'm kind of into some other shit.
It doesn't really define who you are.
No.
But if you start committing crimes...
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's kind of the sad thing about this whole situation. Yeah. I mean, obviously, other than the fucking 60-plus victims that we're going to talk about in a minute, this dude, he had everything. Like, he literally, I think he, like, lived the American dream. He came from the fucking projects. Like, his parents were poor in Philadelphia, and he dropped out of school, and shit like that, but he still made it.
Yeah.
Like, just from, like, hard work and, like, because he was talented and stuff like that. Like, he did it.
Yeah.
And yet, he couldn't just be happy with that.
Yeah.
He had to do all this shitty stuff on the side. And like I said, this shit started back in the 60s when he was still, kind of known, but not, like, super famous. But it just got worse and worse, like, as time went on. So I'm kind of feeling like this is just who this dude is.
Yeah.
And maybe he was just some kind of two-faced Jekyll and Hyde motherfucker that it's just like he just shows this one face, this wholesome, I'm so magnanimous face to the world at large, but then like on the down low, he's doing all this nefarious shit, and it's just like that's so shitty. And like I said, the shitty thing about it is that, yeah, like dudes do this kind of shit all the time, but this dude, Bill Cosby, was so fucking influential. Like a lot of particularly a lot of black comedians and entertainers and stuff like that looked up to him because he did a lot of firsts, and he really helped out a lot of people in the industry and stuff. So people looked up to him as a mentor and a father figure and stuff. And then to have all of this shit come out, it's just kind of but man, you can't fucking trust anybody. Who's next? Mr. Rogers? Please tell me that Mr. Rogers did not do anything.
Turns out he's pedo. I always kind of thought Mr. Rogers was pedo, but fucking...
No, nothing ever came out about Mr. Rogers. He was... Mr. Rogers, I kind of feel was the very, very rare case of the person who was exactly as virtuous and wonderful as he appeared to be.
Rude.
Which is really nice, because that hardly ever happens.
Out there.
I kind of feel like Bob Ross is the same kind of guy.
Although I would think that well, he was just about chilling you out.
Yeah.
Fucking, they actually have fucking some YouTube shows where it's just Bob Ross AMSR.
Yeah.
But
We love Bob
I
Ross.
think with Cosby, I think all that stand up shit. I think that's who he was. That's what sold, and I think that's how he thought of himself.
Yeah.
But I think all the molester shit was like a compartmentalized fucking like dark side to him
Yeah.
that he probably fucking didn't really want to address, and so he'd minimize it. But let's see about the actual crime.
I mean,
he
like I
committed.
said, I think, in my opinion, maybe this isn't right. I'm not him, and
He probably didn't think it was a big deal.
I don't think he thought it was a big deal. I think he just thought,
It was like normal sex.
oh well, this is just shit that you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fact that, like I said, we'll talk about like his deposition that he gave. Just the wording that he used led me to believe that he did not think that what he did was bad,
Right.
even though it very clearly was.
He just thought it was some kinky shit he was doing.
Yeah, like I kind of feel like he thought, like, what's the big deal? I just drugged her into unconsciousness and then stuck my fingers in her pussy.
Yeah.
Why is that bad? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he understood the gravity of, like, what the fuck he was doing for decades and decades.
CB saying we was spiking the drinks because she knew that they would say no to him for sex. No. He was doing it to women he was already having sex with.
Well, that too. But, like,
Yeah.
he did do it to women that he thought. But although
Yeah.
I will note that a couple of the victims that put up too much of a fight, he did get mad and, like, just fucking kick him out.
Yeah.
So I think he wanted somebody that was, like, compliant.
Right.
So I think his thing was all about power and control.
Yeah.
He wanted somebody that was going to do whatever he wanted,
Yeah.
like, on his timeline. And if you wouldn't do that, if you were going to be feisty or whatever, then he didn't want to deal with it. I think, like I said, I think he just wanted total control over people. That was kind of the impression that I got from the pattern that emerged of all the victims. So, yeah. So we've already talked kind of a little bit about his past and shit like that. Like I said, I don't think I mentioned that, like I said, in a lot of ways, and it's really bad because why? Why the fuck did they have to do this? Well, like, why can't you just not be shitty? I don't
What
know.
about the allegations? What exactly did he
Well,
say?
yeah,
he
we'll
did?
get into that. Well, like I said, that's going to take a while because
Okay.
I didn't do like all 62 women,
Yeah.
but I did a lot of them.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The show can only be so long, so we can get to it.
That's true. It's only 9 o'clock, so don't
Okay.
worry about it. We've only been on for an hour and a half.
All right.
So calm down. But yeah, I was going to say, because Tammy brought up I Spy before, and that was actually the first show that he was on, and that was the first, like, dramatic show in the 60s that had a black man as a main character.
Yeah, and he was serious.
And he won 3 Emmys for that shit,
Yeah.
which again was another first. So he was, like I said, very groundbreaking in that area, like,
Yeah.
and, you know, opening
I remember it as
things
a kid.
up to other, yeah.
I remember it as a kid. It was a show kind of on par with.
It was like an espionage type
Yeah,
show.
it was kind of like Mission Impossible.
Yeah, kind of like that. So yeah, so it was like a big deal, and like I said, he won a lot of Emmys, and he went to a lot of parties. Like, he got really, really famous in a very, very short time.
Got a
as
super
I
jet.
said. We did.
From Papa. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much,
Sent us all
Papa
kinds of money.
77. All kind of money.
All kinds of money. He's being rich on us.
We have missed most of the show, so we will listen later. Just
Okay.
wanted to show some love to you guys. Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The show's been...
We haven't gotten to the actual cases.
Yeah, I mean, we have been talking about Bill Cosby the whole time, like his
Yeah.
kind of legacy and all
and
this other
and
kind of stuff.
and the era from which he came.
Mm.
Trying to give a little bit of cultural background for anybody, and you know, it's nostalgia for people who were there.
Yeah.
But people who weren't there, they're going to need some kind of background of what this was like.
And you remember, like, the Pudding Pops commercials?
Pudding pops. The Giallo pudding pops.
I will say those chocolate Jello pudding pops
They were good.
delicious.
Yeah, they're very good.
We always had them.
They were gooey.
And he did a whole series of commercials for them.
Yeah.
And I remember most of them.
Yeah.
And they worked, man, because their sales went up like millions
Oh,
of
hell
dollars.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
when
they
he
tasted
did-
good and they weren't expensive.
Yeah. They were really good, though. I don't think they make them.
It'd be him. He was just goofing around with the damn pudding. Ooh, that's so good. The Jello
Which, like I
pudding
said,
pop.
kind of hits different
Great.
nowadays,
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of people make, like, pudding pop
Yeah,
jokes.
he was over the top funny and shit. being silly.
It's just, so like I said, I get why some people are kind of conflicted and reluctant about it.
Yeah.
In the same way that maybe like people were reluctant to think that O.J. Simpson did what he did, even though he totally did. You know, you don't want to shit on someone who is this much of an icon and this influential in the community, but it's just kind of like, look, the bro did what he did. And you can't really separate that from the person. And like I said, he'd been doing it for such a long time that you can't really argue that, oh, his fame got the better of him or this or that and the other thing. He'd been doing this for ever.
Yeah.
Going back to the 60s when he wasn't really even that famous. So this was just kind of who he was like the whole time.
High Desert says he doesn't like fucking Tom Hanks. The movies he makes make him look like a pedo. It wouldn't surprise me. I think he was up on that island. And there are some of those girls did fucking kind of like hint that he was one of the dudes that was up there. Fucking, he comes off that way. He's awful. He's kind of strange. But, and the way they shoot him during that, I ain't gonna get into that shit. Yeah, he's weird. I don't think Tom Hanks is a normal dude.
I don't know. I never felt one way or the other about Tom Hanks. I haven't seen enough of his movies, I guess, to like have an opinion about it.
That's not a dude's dude. That's some kind of other kind of dude.
Okay. I don't really know. I'm a woman. I don't really have access to this kind of like secret dude.
Yeah, it's like secret dudism.
So,
that's not.
That's just
yeah. There's something undudely about that guy.
Undudely. Okay. What would it take to make him doodly? For more sexual assault allegations to come out?
If I saw a fucking video of him in a strip club with a titty in one hand and another titty in his mouth and he's drunk as shit with a bunch of money laying around him, and I go, all right, yeah, he's okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Like at this stage, I'm an old person now, so it's just kind of like I don't really, and honestly, even when I was younger, I don't really have idols in the way this, because look, famous people are just fucking people. They take a shit like the rest of us, and they do fucked up shit just like regular people do.
Yeah, and that's one good thing about the internet.
People are more shocked about it, but it's like I don't know why you would be. Particularly like actors, it's like their whole job is pretending to be other people.
They're adult pretenders.
So you have no idea what they're really like in real life. They might suck, they might not, they might be awesome people, but I just kind of feel like you don't know. Like, I know you feel like you know them because you see them so much, but you don't know them.
That gets back to what I was saying about the internet. The internet has dethroned a lot of this.
Yeah.
Fucking, for the younger generations, you know what I mean? Fucking, the people that they're really into are not these Hollywood fucking stars and television stars. They don't watch television. It's some chick on TikTok or a
who YouTuber. You can actually talk to.
Who's a normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and then they kind of become a celebrity, but celebrity is now democratized amongst thousands of fucking YouTube people.
Yeah.
Okay. Back in those days, it was like a handful of people.
Yeah, I mean, well, and the thing about it is that obviously wealth protects you from a lot of shit. You're in a bubble. You can get away with a lot of shit because you can just pay people off, as Bill Cosby did, allegedly, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, obviously that still happens to quite a large extent, but it's not quite the same as it was back in the day, you know? I kind of feel like nowadays, if there was a celebrity and like 62 women came out and said, hey, this dude did some sketchy fucking shit, I kind of feel like people would be like, they would probably believe it. But you know what I mean? It's back in the, maybe not in this climate. I'm not sure. But back in the day, I don't think they would have believed him. And I think that's why a lot of women really didn't report it until later. Because here's the thing, like, especially if shit happened in the 70s or the 80s or whatever, I think some women were just kind of like, you know what? I'm just not even going to say anything about that. I don't want to get involved in that mess. Like, and I understand that. But then when other women come out and be like, hey, this motherfucker did this to me, and then another one comes out, and then that kind of emboldens you to be like, yeah, that motherfucker did that to me too. Like, so it kind of seems like, oh, all this shit's coming out of nowhere. But I think it's just that it just takes one person with the ovaries to kind of come out and say, hey, this motherfucker did this and it's not right. And for other women to be like, yeah, he did that shit to me too. Like, I think they were too scared to say shit before.
Yeah.
But when one person came out, like, publicly.
Turned out all of them.
And, like, all of them came out and said, yeah, he did that also to me also. I think that's what you're seeing. I don't think it's a thing so much of, and I'm not saying that women don't fabricate rape allegations. Like, sometimes they do, but I think it's very, very uncommon. The thing about it is,
It's not uncommon for psychopathic women.
Well, no, but I mean, even in even nowadays, false allegations of rape are very, very rare. So I kind of feel like I'm inclined to believe them until I have some reason not to. Because it seems more likely to me that a dude would do something shitty than a woman would just completely make something up. Just from my personal experience. So, but like I said, it does happen. I get that. But I'm going to sit on the fence until I figure out what happened. In this case, there is such a pattern of behavior established over so many decades. And because there was so much kind of scuttlebutt and like underground kind of chat going on about it for, again, so many decades, I'm kind of inclined to believe pretty much all their, are one or two of them just coming in there trying to get a cash in? Maybe. I don't know. But, honestly, I'm inclined to believe pretty much all of their, because they all have very similar stories. Very similar.
So there was a pattern.
Yeah.
Pattern recognition, people.
That's what I mean.
Pattern recognition.
And
There's
if all
something
these
to
people are coming out saying, hey, he did this and that, like independent of each other, then yeah, that looks pretty bad. That looks pretty bad, though. So like I said, at this point, I believe it's 62 women. And that's just the ones that are speaking out. Like I said,
a bunch of regulars jumped in. They weren't here before. The fucking audience has expanded some. And they're talking about some chick that freaked them out. What was her name? Fucking Lady Elaine said they were creeped out.
Oh, from Mr. Rogers?
Okay, I didn't know who that was.
No, remember how Mr. Rogers went into, like, what was that called? Like, his little fantasy land that had the King Friday?
Yeah.
And the little cat that lived in the clock?
Yeah.
And Lady Elaine, yeah, she was kind of freaky. Okay. She had, like, a big, like, crooked, she looked like she didn't look like a witch, necessarily. Her face kind of looked like a witch.
It was a puppet, right?
Yeah, they were all, they were
I remember that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it.
It was a little hand puppet.
Yeah. They had, like, he had, like, the little trolley that went from his...
Did she have a crown?
No. King Friday did.
King Friday, okay.
Yeah, she was... Wait, did she have a crown? I don't remember her having a crown. I remember having kind of short hair and, like, kind of a witchy kind of face. Did she have a red sweater? Was it red? She had a red outfit. That's what I remember. It's been a long time since I've seen Mr. Rogers. But I do remember that he had, like, from his apartment, which was, like, a ground floor apartment... He would come in and take his little espadrilles off, his little shoes off or whatever. Mr. McFeely would come and deliver the mail. And I didn't realize this, but McFeely was Fred Rogers' middle name. That's why he named the mailman Mr. McFeely. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so Mr. McFeely would come by and give him the mail or whatever. And then he would go in there and he had the little trolley, and then you knew you were going into a little fantasy land or whatever. That's so weird, like, to think about now. But man, like I said, I would be heartbroken. But like, probably not. I wouldn't be super shocked. But I kind of feel like Mr. Rogers, of all of the, icons from our childhood, if somebody came out and said Mr. Rogers was really like a piece of shit or something like that, I would be pretty sad about that. But to be honest, from everything that I've heard, Mr. Rogers seemed to be the very, very rare person that was exactly as he appeared to be. He was just a lovely, virtuous human being. I have never heard anybody say anything bad about Mr. Rogers. Please don't correct me if I'm wrong. I've never heard anybody say.
Please don't correct you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, well, yeah, I've never heard anything bad about him. Everybody said, no, he was exactly as he appeared. He was just a wonderful, lovely person. Like, there was nothing bad going on. There was nothing. Because I always kind of feel like people that are, like, too good, like, there's, like, some, like, fucking shit going on. But evidently not in his case.
He was a child psychologist and married and all that from whatever.
Yeah.
He wrote a bunch of books.
Well, this motherfucker was married and wrote a bunch of books and had a bunch of kids, too. And look how this turned out. I kind of feel like...
Go ahead and give you some more ice in that.
In most cases, anybody that portrays themselves as super... Although, I kind of feel like Mr. Rogers never overtly...
He was on PBS.
He never overtly portrayed himself as, like, some paragon of virtue or anything like that. He was just a good dude. Like, he didn't try to say he was better than you or this is how you should do things or anything like that. He just seemed like a very soft-spoken...
The difference between the two is
that he wasn't like trying to tell you how to live or nothing like that.
Well, Mr. Rogers was talking to kids.
Yeah.
He was a child. He was for children. So he's not going to fuck up adults that much. He's just talking to kids.
Cosby shit was... Some of his shit was for kids, too.
Well, I remember... look, let me put this Mr. Rogers shit to bed. I remember being a kid back in the 70s, sitting on the fucking floor, looking at Mr. Rogers, because that was what was on at the time. What I remember was kind of like AMSR. He'd fucking calm you down. He'd be talking real nice and then show you...
Yeah, he was very chill.
And then little nice things would happen with the puppets and everything. And looking back on it, I'm thinking, like... I think what the deal was is that there could have been, like, a lot of kids didn't have really good homes, and that might have been the only nice shit they ever saw.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that was probably the case.
Right.
So that's why I feel like a lot of this kind of like childhood. That's why it's so shitty when like allegations come out later about this you know, whatever hypothetical like child person that was like on TV or whatever. Oh, they're really a pedo or whatever. That's why that kind of sucks, because it's like for some kids, that was their only outlet to like a normal.
Some of them was normal
childhood,
and they're really friendly. There wasn't anything scary, but they would talk about stuff that was scary. You're gonna get over it, and it's gonna be,
It was just very chill. Like you said, it was a very good, and he was a child psychologist, like you said, so he knew very deliberately like knew what he was doing and like wanted everything to be, you know, very safe. He's like wanted kids from all backgrounds to be able to watch his show and be able to just feel safe and loved. Even if they weren't at home.
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
Yeah.
And the thing is...
And he genuinely did seem to be that guy.
As a kid, I didn't realize he was behind all of that. Mm-hmm. Because I would just see these little hand puppets and little trains running in his house. And so, you know what I mean? It was like I was into like the other little characters. But I also like Gumby and Pokey at the same time, too. And fucking David and Goliath, which was a Mormon show. Fucking I like that, too. It was all sent around the same time. Somebody sent us another super chat.
Thank you very much, Zach. Send us a super chat.
What's up, Zach?
Said the last few days, a ton of allegations came out about Zack Baggins from Ghost Adventures. People are saying he did stuff with them when they were minors. That does not shock me in the slightest, because Zack Baggins always seemed like a giant fucking douchebag to me. So, again, the Cosby case, I was kind of shocked about that. Zack Baggins, that does not shock me at all. At all. In fact, I'm surprised it didn't come out earlier. Because he always seemed like a huge asshat. So, you know, it's not a shock. If you're a big asshat, yeah.
I don't know that show.
You don't know Ghost Adventures? Zack Baggins?
I'd have to see it.
You've seen it before.
I remember Paranormal U.
It's like the most famous paranormal show. I mean, it's kind of like all the other paranormal shows. I kind of feel like
they're all about the same.
But I always thought Zack Baggins just seemed like such a giant...
Ghost Adventures. Okay, that was around forever. That was like the first one, wasn't it?
I don't think I ever thought to myself, wow, I wouldn't be shocked if that person is a sexual predator. Yeah. But now that you say it, it's just kind of like, yeah, that tracks.
Good.
That tracks. I mean, he totally seems like that. You know what I mean? He just seems like that type of guy. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, Mr. Rogers, and to a lesser extent, Bill Cosby, did not seem like that kind of guy, which was why it was kind of so shocking. But like I said, rest in peace, Mr. Rogers. You seem like the only fucking really virtuous person like left, who is really exactly what they appeared, which is nice. You don't really get that.
No, the whole idea that fucking Mr. Rogers was a sniper in Vietnam.
No, that's not true. That's an urban legend.
And they also said that about John Denver. It's not true. John Denver, I think, was in the army, but he wasn't a sniper.
Well, now Bob Ross wasn't. He wasn't a sniper, but he had some kind of he did some shit in the military. Mm-hmm. Wasn't he a drill sergeant or something?
I don't remember.
I think Bob Ross was a drill sergeant. And I think that's why he started doing the chill out painting stuff, because it's like he hated all that like yelling at people and shit like that.
Or he was sick of it.
Yeah. He just wanted like a fucking chill. Relaxing.
It has its purpose.
I get that. But yeah. So as of this recording, as of this live stream in May of 2025, Bill Cosby, he was convicted in 2018 of 3 charges against 1 woman. And he was given 3 to 10 years in prison. However, in 2021, he was let out really because of a technicality. So he's free. I believe he's like 87, 88 now, and he's completely blind, but he's still alive. However, he did also get convicted in a civil case in 2022 for another sexual assault that happened to a woman named Judy Huth, or Huth, I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, that happened when she was 16. So there's that. So he's been found civilly liable of that. So I don't know if we have to do allegedly, but I was watching this documentary about him, and it was called Bill Cosby Allegedly, because they said allegedly like 40,000 times, like, so he wouldn't sue them. And it's just, and they thought it was so funny that they just like called the whole episode Allegedly, which I thought was hilarious. I don't remember. It might have been Simon Whistler. I don't remember. I don't remember. But yeah. All right. So let's talk about some of the victims and like what happened to them. Like I said, I don't know if I can get into all of them, but I do have like a substantial, like I just have like a paragraph or two about like what they claimed happened to them. So the earliest allegation that I could find happened in the early 1960s. And this was a woman, or a girl at the time, named Sunny Wells. Now, she was actually from Venezuela. And she came to the U.S. When she was a little kid, like 3 years old, with her parents. And her mom, whose name was Mary Kay, actually worked in the entertainment industry, which is how she ended up meeting Bill Cosby. Now, she met Bill Cosby when she was a little girl, like 8, 9, 10, something like that, because her mom was a theatrical agent, like at a talent agency. So she ended up meeting him in that regard. And so he was like a friend of the family. And she actually really liked him and thought he was super funny and all this other kind of stuff. Now, when she got a little bit older, she was 17 years old, and she met him again in the 1980s. She was actually kind of at Paramount Studios, like on the set of something that he was working on. And her mom was working on whatever it was, like as a story editor. So that's why she was there, 'cause she was kind of hanging out with her mom. Now, Bill Cosby apparently honed in, allegedly, on this 17-year-old and invited her to go to a club with him afterwards. Now, she did not drink. She was underage. So he ordered her some Coke, as in have a Coke and a smile. However, she drank this soda, which she thought was innocuous, and apparently woke up the next morning completely naked in Cosby's apartment with not much memory of what had happened.
He didn't even put clothes back on her.
He did not. I don't think he really gave a shit, to be honest. And this was early days. This is the first allegation that they know about. Like I said, he might have been doing this prior to this.
So his attitude was just like, "Oh, bitch, you got drunk and you was wild as fuck. It's all on you."
Mm.
That's probably what his thinking was. His defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna blame it on her.
Well, don't they all?
Yeah.
Don't they all?
Yeah. Don't you know you got drunk? You were wild as shit. Throwing pussy everywhere.
Yeah, it's like, wasn't my fault. I just took you up on it.
I was just along with the ride. You didn't give me a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they'll all say.
Yeah. How could you resist this?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's probably what he's thinking.
So here's the thing. So she's 17.
Yeah.
She doesn't really remember what happened. It's the early 1960s.
Yeah.
She's like, was that bad? I'm not really sure. Like I said, not super experienced at this time. And so she asked him about it, which good for her. He said, "Oh, don't you remember? You drank a bunch of champagne," which she did not remember doing. Because she didn't drink. And he's like, "You got really drunk, and I took you to this apartment, and you took all your clothes off yourself."
Yeah.
And she had known him for a while since she was a kid. Because, like I said, she met him through her mom, who was worked at her town. So she kind of believed him, because she's like, okay. She didn't really remember. So it happened again.
He did it again?
He did it again. Because she didn't remember.
Right.
So, yeah. So, she's like, okay. So she believed him at first. And then he, did it again. Yeah, she woke up in the same apartment again, like a little while later, naked, after pretty much the same thing happened again.
Yeah.
And at that point, she was just like, fuck you, dude, and she didn't talk to him anymore.
Yeah.
But,
he figured I think he figured...
I mean, she was 17.
Yeah, he figured...
In the early 60s.
First time.
I'll let her... Yeah,
again.
okay.
Yeah, that's...
Because she didn't know what happened.
Right.
She kind of suspected, but she was like, nah. Because she'd known him for a while, like I said. And I feel like you'll see that time and again, because it's not a case of, oh, these women know he just met them one time and, you know, drugged him and did that. Like, some of these women, he knew them for years and acted completely fucking normal, like, around them until, suddenly, one night he got a wild hair across the crack of his ass, apparently, and decided, hey, I'm going to drug her and rape her.
Yeah.
How about that? And so a lot of them were just like, they couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I've known this dude for like 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck would he suddenly do that?
He probably just thought it was something you could do.
I guess.
It was free.
CB says, bit of advice for the ladies in the chat. If a man gives you a drink and it tastes bitter, spit it out and tell the barmaid or barman. I would even go farther than that. Ladies, never, ever, ever, ever accept a drink from a man you do not know.
And always keep an eye on your drink.
And always keep an eye on your drink if you're at a bar, even if you're with somebody. Because, look...
She got spiked.
I have been spiked 2 times.
And I've been spiked once.
You have also been spiked.
Yep.
I was spiked one time when I was with my first husband and another female friend. I got spiked while they were right there.
Yeah.
So you never know.
I got spiked.
Just watch it.
I got spiked by a dude who was after her.
Yeah.
And he tried to spike me.
We only figured it out later.
We figured out later. He spiked me. I don't know what it was. I went crazy on the shit.
You did.
Never happened again.
Nope.
It was just, I don't know what it was. I couldn't even recognize the drug.
No. Well, mine, it was probably roofies because I had literally just got there. I think I'd only been at the bar for maybe an hour.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was with my first husband at the time. And a female friend of ours who had met us there. We didn't take her there. And she had a couple friends with her I didn't know. And, which it might have been one of them. I don't really know. I had one drink. I drank like maybe half of the first drink. And then I'm sitting there on the stool, like listening to the music. And all of a sudden I say, man, I don't feel good. And then I just went, whoop, and I just fell right off the fucking stool.
Yep. Tori Martin
and
got fucking
my ex-husband and my friend, they carried me out to the car. The next thing I remember is being halfway home in the car and barfing in my lap.
Yeah.
That's the next thing I remember.
Yeah. There was a whole rash of that at the club that we were at. And then it stopped. But
I kind of feel like it was the same dude. Hey, there's Dimitri.
Which Dimitri?
Especially at mannequins, he says.
Okay, yeah. Dimitri Pappas?
Yeah. I've never been drugged at mannequins that I know of, but I was drugged at Old Ibar at least twice.
Dimitri is the DJ at the club that we promote
at Memento Mori.
At Memento Mori, yeah.
Yes. Which we just went to this past Saturday.
Yeah, and he was also the DJ at clubs fucking going back. We've been together hanging out for 15 years, maybe almost close to 20 now.
A long time.
Yeah.
A long time. It's very,
going to hotels
old.
Together. He saw the abdominal snowman.
Our very old. Oh yeah.
The abdominal snowman.
In Tampa, I forgot.
Me and Jen were fucking getting it on in the bed right next to him and his wife.
I forgot about that whole situation. That's right.
Yeah.
That was a fun night.
That's fucking funny.
That was a fun night. Man, we were super wasted.
I was fucking super wasted. I thought I was the abominable snowman.
The abdominal snowman.
Yeah, I called him the abdominal snowman. My belly was big back then.
Yeah.
I mean.
But yeah, at Old, there was kind of a like you said, a rash of it going around at Ibar. I don't know if it was the same dude or not. I kind of suspected the time it happened, the bad time it happened to me, I thought it was one of our female friends, like male friends, because she had 2 or 3 friends with her that I didn't know, that I'd never met before.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe it was one of them. But then I was just kind of like, what was the end game? Because like they knew I was with people. And like
I think sometimes it's to make you look like a fool.
Maybe.
So you can lose your friends.
I wasn't on the dance floor. I was just over on the side. Remember at the Old Ibar where there was that little, like, thing, like, right before the stairs where you went up to the bathroom? There was, like, that little table and, like, a couple stools there. Yeah. I was sitting there.
When they got me, it was to make me look like a fool.
Yeah.
I think. So they could come after her.
Ooh.
It was... We're pretty sure we know who it is.
That didn't work either.
Yeah. And then when they go after a woman, they're trying to isolate that woman from her friends so they can get her.
Yeah. But like I said, I was with my ex-husband at the time.
Yeah.
And a couple other people, so I just got carried out to the car.
But, you know, there could be a thing where they don't know that woman is with a guy.
Maybe not.
At the time that they drop it.
Right.
And then fucking the husband comes back from the bathroom like, oh, she's with somebody.
Right.
There might be that. You know, so it could be a lot of different things of why they target certain people. Some people they're trying to get ass out of it.
Well, yeah.
Or they wouldn't do it.
That's why I'm wondering.
Yeah.
As far as I know, and honestly, I know this is terrible to say, but it's like, you know, back in the day when I used to go out by myself or just with female friends, some shit might have happened and I just don't remember. As far as I know, the drugging has never worked. I have been drugged a couple of times.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. Now, I went to a party at a house of the dude I was kind of sort of dating friends with benefits with at the time. And I don't think anybody drugged me, but I did drink a lot and I fell asleep. So I don't know if anything happened. I don't think anything did because that dude would not have let anything. It was his house and he would not have let anything.
Big tall guy?
Yeah, and he bodily like carried me and locked me in his room.
He was protected.
So I don't think anything bad happened.
Yeah, he's a man of honor.
So I don't know if anybody drugged me that night or not. Because I didn't know any of the other people other than him.
Yeah.
But like I said, he would not have let anything bad happen to me.
No, not him. I think another thing is that you overestimate the intelligence of the dude who's slipping the Mickeys.
Oh, I don't overestimate anyone's intelligence.
He may think it's just going to make a girl more pliant.
No, it just made me fall over.
Just makes you sick.
And black out.
So they may not have real good experience.
Yeah, because literally, the last thing I remember, I said, I think I'm going to barf. And then I was like, then I just fell on the floor. And I don't remember anything after that. Yeah,
that stopped, though. That hasn't been for years and years and years.
Yeah, that was a long time.
Like
I said, that was when I was with my first husband, and that was ages ago.
Yeah.
So, but there was a rash of it going on at that time, because I know a lot of other women that had this.
Yeah, they got Tori Martin.
Yeah, that's right. Tori got.
Tori Martin was...
well, did anything bad happen to her?
No. She was with a guy.
Oh, okay, that's
she's with her boyfriend. He got her out of there.
That's right.
They had to drag her out of there.
Somebody was doing it.
Yeah.
We don't know who.
Tori Martin was a Native American princess, really a princess. She was a Mandan princess. No, Mandan, right?
I don't remember what tribe.
No, not Mandan. Up in I forgot the name of the tribe she was. Punk rock girl, big blue hair. She had blue eyes. For an Indian.
She's a beautiful girl. And awesome.
Really cool. She was in a couple little movies,
cool.
goth movies.
Yeah,
she was into like goth industrial music. And somebody slipped her a fucking Mickey, man. They had to drag her out of there. And she'd only had 2 drinks.
Yeah, because look, I can drink a lot. Yeah.
She was Macaw.
That's right.
She's a Macaw Indian from Washington State, which they're kind of like Inuit or Eskimo, what you would call them. They were like whaling Indians.
Yeah,
and her dad was.
She's like an Inuit.
Her dad was in Washington D.C. like part of Indian Affairs or something. And it was funny because I looked at the little Indian Nation fucking reserve that they came from, and they all look like that. They all look like her.
CB said, my former friend spiked me by mistake. He was aiming for the girl we were talking to. I kicked his ass and went to the police. I'm glad he's your former friend because holy shit, don't fucking Bill Cosby people, man. And honestly, I kind of love that Bill Cosby's name has become kind of a verb at this point. Yeah. Meaning that you're drugging women in order to rape them. I don't think he's ever going to fucking live that down. Like I said, you could have had a perfect, beautiful legacy. Yeah. You would have been beloved by everyone, but you had to do all of this and fuck it up. Why don't you just not do that? I don't understand.
Yeah. Hey Dimitri, that was a great night last weekend. It was good.
Yeah, we had a great time.
It was a good night.
We had a great time. Yeah, he DJ'd.
Music was spot on. Yeah.
At the last Saturday.
Yeah.
We were there. Yeah, I had a good time. I had danced so much that I had to go change my uncomfortable shoes into my more comfortable shoes, which were in the trunk.
Always bring backup shoes for you.
Which I had brought. Yeah. I had backup shoes. I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I had backup shoes in the trunk.
You'll break
like
your
the
feet,
fucking the bartender laughed at me because he was out in parking lot having a smoke break.
Yeah.
And he saw us going out to the car, and he's like, "You have to go change your shoes." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I gotta go change my shoes."
Yeah.
It's like, these are super uncomfortable. It's like, they look hot, but they're super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I had to go change my flat ones. But yeah. So yeah, this is kind of, as we'll see, this is kind of like a pattern going forward where this girl, she's only 17. It's the early 60s. She wasn't entirely sure what had happened because she didn't really remember it all that well. And so when he said, "Hey, like, come out with me again," she's like, "Okay." Like, she wasn't sure. Like, you know what I mean? And here's the thing. Women in general, I don't think, you know, not all women, obviously, but women in general tend to question themselves, evidently a lot more than men do. So if somebody says, "No, it happened this way," and women are kind of like pretty sure they remembered another way, they'll be like, "Well, maybe it didn't happen that way. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe I imagined it," or something like that. Like, I feel like dudes don't really do that because they are super confident even when they have no right to be. But women are the opposite. We're just kind of like, maybe I didn't remember it right. Maybe that didn't happen. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like there's a lot of that going on. And like I said, if you're really young and you're not super experienced and shit like this happens to you, especially somebody that you know that your mom introduced you to, that has given you no reason to mistrust them, blah de blah, and they do this kind of shit, you might think about it in the back of your mind. It's like, nah, he would never. So I do kind of feel like a lot of that was going on. So that's kind of why I think a lot of women didn't report it because, you know, of that kind of situation. She has actually, obviously she said, "Yeah, I don't think he's a nice man anymore." Because I realized what happened, because it happened twice, you know what I mean? Because the first time she wasn't sure, and so she went back again, and then it happened again, said pretty much the same exact thing. She's like, "Okay, well, I'm sure this time, fuck that dude." And she didn't talk to him anymore. She has since passed away. She died in 2021, I believe. She was 72 years old. But as far as I know, she was like the earliest allegation. So we also have one from 1965, which is a woman named Christina Rulli. Not entirely sure if that's how you pronounce her last name, so I apologize if that's wrong. She basically said she was 22 years old, and she worked as a secretary at a talent agency. And she says, and this was another thing that was very, very common, was that Bill Cosby came up to her and invited her to a party at his house, but when she showed up, she was the only person there. Like, he did this a couple of times. So she gets there and she's like, "Okay, this is fucking awkward." And he's like, "Hey, I'll make you a drink." And she's like, "I guess, okay." And so he made her a cocktail, and unsurprisingly, she completely blacked out. When she came to, she was in his bed and was trying to make her suck his dick. So there's that. So it turned out this woman here, like I said, this allegation is from 1965. She was actually one of the most famous case was one case that we'll talk about a little bit later on. The one who was actually convicted. She was actually one of the 13 Jane Does that testified in that case. Was like, you know, trying to establish a pattern of behavior, like I said. 1967. Carla Ferrigno. She was the wife of Incredible Hulk actor Lou Ferrigno, although I don't believe they were married at the time. I don't know. I think they were dating at the time, but I don't think they were married yet. But they did marry later. She says that in 1967, she got invited on a double date with Bill Cosby and his wife, Camille. And she said that both of them, they all went to Bill Cosby's house, and they were in the basement. He had a pool table down there, and they were all like playing pool. Everything was fine. And then she says at one stage, her and Bill Cosby ended up alone, and he yanked her like close to him and was like trying to like fucking kiss her, like so.
With Lou Ferrigno in the other fucking room.
Yeah, I think he was in the other room.
That
like,
motherfucker's the Hulk, man. He was bigger than Arnold.
I mean, he's gonna Hulk out and beat you.
He was deaf, but he could speak.
Yeah.
And Lou, he's been in movies too. I think he did a Hercules movie. He did some Star Trek. He did a Star Trek Continues episode that was great. That dude is still big today. Yeah. He's still big. Man, dude has some balls.
And
fucking Lou would tear him up.
Way.
Lou would tear that dude up, man.
Look, I will tear you up. You fucking pull me in you and try to get me to... I'm gonna punch you right in the fucking dick.
Yeah.
Pap. And in the neck. And I'll try to poke your eyes out. That's what I'll do.
He must have fucking said... in a weird part of his mind.
And this was like early. This was 1967. So like he was famous, but not super famous.
Yeah, and Lou wasn't that big then.
And like I said, they weren't married at this point. They were just dating. Yeah. So he was there, I think. But
Lou got really big in the 70s.
Yeah.
By 73, he was huge. He ended up starring in the Hulk.
That's right.
He didn't have any speaking lines, but he played the Hulk. Which, people thought because he was deaf, he couldn't talk. He could talk. He just had that. He just couldn't enunciate well.
Yeah, some deaf people can talk, but they can't hear themselves, so it's like So it's gonna sound quote unquote funny.
Sound funny,
to like people that are hearing or whatever.
Although he did good. He had a speaking role in fucking one of the Star Trek Continues episodes.
Yeah,
which
that's
I
right.
want to get. And
he was great.
You can tell he's deaf, but he's great. He was great. He was great. Yeah,
that's right.
He played an Orion slave master.
Yeah.
Remember that shit? Yeah.
That was fantastic. I really.
He's all green and
everything.
everything.
I really liked him in that. Oh, Dimitri says, "Thank you. It was a blast. Need to get that Goodbye Horses remix."
Yeah.
Urban
Heat.
I mean, any Urban Heat is good. They're a fucking great band. I like them a lot.
Good new band.
I like them a lot. And, I mean, their Goodbye Horses cover is fantastic, but all their original shit is good.
Getting big in the scene too. Seen interviews with them.
And honestly, they seem like
nice guys.
Like the singer seems like a really good dude. He seems like he seems like a nice dude. Like I watched like a really long interview with him. I was like, wow.
Jen thinks she's hot too.
He's super hot.
Yeah, but he's got good arms. He works out. He's good.
And like I said, I was so glad when I saw that interview because
black dude with a mullet.
I mean, a little bit,
light skinned black dude.
But it's kind of more. It works though. It works.
It's because of what era they're.
It's a little. It's a little El DeBarge.
Yeah.
But not that egregious.
I forgot his name. His name is Steve something or other.
No, it's not Steve. It's,
I thought it was Steve.
Shit, I can't remember now. But but yeah, I can't remember what his name is. But here's the funny thing: like they'll play that sometimes at like on the '80s night, and me and Dr. Michael. Dr. Michael comes up to me. He's like, "That dude is. I want to fuck that dude." I'm like, "Hey, me too." And like, so we were like bonding over that. So it's like, so I thought that was kind of funny. But like, I don't know. Like, so I was so happy because Tom's like, "Oh, I saw this interview with that dude that you think is hot." And he showed it to me, and it was like this long interview with like some vampire guy or something for some
in a goth club.
In a goth club.
Yeah.
And I was so relieved because I was like, man, if that dude turns out to be a douche, I'll be so
he's very cool.
Disappointed. But he seemed like super cool.
He's very cool, yeah.
Like just super funny and super self-deprecating, and just like a real dude. You know
and in the Goodbye Horses videos, they're homaging the fucking Sisters of Mercy riding around in that damn convertible.
They were,
car.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
Like in a low key kind of way.
Yeah, it's a Texas band.
They're from Austin. Yeah. But yeah, I really like them a lot. I like all their original shit too. Like some of their shit kind of sounds like the Talking Heads, or like it's kind of 80s retro, but not like in a super obvious way.
In general, to me, it sounds like Mesh. Kind of like Mesh.
Kinda, but not as much to me, I guess. Yeah. But I get where you're coming from.
Kind of like Depeche Mode, which is Mesh sounded like Depeche Mode to me too.
Well, yeah, Mesh was like kind of a Depeche Mode ripoff. I like Mesh though. So Joan Tarshish. This was from 1969, and it was this same year actually in 1969. Because remember how I said that earlier that Bill Cosby like used to openly joke, even though his shit was ostensibly family friendly, which most of it was. Like he didn't swear and stuff, and he got on other comedians for swearing. But he did do like a little bit of kind of sideways shit. But like I said, in the 60s and 70s, you could get away with this and people would just think it was kind of funny, I guess. Because he did make some jokes about drugging women for sex in 1969. And everyone just kind of thought it was funny because I've seen the clips. So, like I said, not great nowadays. Like you could still joke about that as long as it was clear that you were joking and not. But obviously this dude wasn't joking because he was really doing this shit. So 1969. Now, she was a comedy writer at the time, but she was only 19. And so she met him. He was in comedy. She was in comedy. So he asked her to come to help him write some stuff for his sitcom, like The Bill Cosby Show. Not The Cosby Show that came out in the 80s, but he had another show that came out called The Bill Cosby Show. Like in the early, like late 60s, early 70s. That I think it ran for 2 seasons. So he invited her to come help him work on that. And you will not be surprised to hear that she says, and this is a quote, "I was sitting up writing 1 second," because they're working on a script, right? "And the next second, I was lying down on the couch having my underwear taken off." So he had, like, given her some drugs, which she did not know about, because he didn't always spike alcoholic drinks. He would spike whatever. If you didn't drink, he would spike your coffee. He would spike your tonic water. Whatever the fuck you were drinking, he would spike it.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't picky. And she said that he had actually sexually assaulted her at least 2 times that she knew of.
I'm going to go downstairs and put the chicken in.
Okay.
Be back in a minute.
Yeah. Living Legend says Pill Cosby. Yeah. I mean, they don't call him that for nothing. Mm-hmm. Just like fucking terrible, terrible fucking behavior. We're not even like part of the way through. Cynthia Ladd. This happened also in 1969. And she says that she was 21 years old. She met Cosby. She was in New York City. And she was working for a movie producer named Ray Stark. And she says her and her roommate... I might be getting this wrong, but I read this somewhere else, and I didn't put it in my notes like a dumbass. But I think that her roommate, I might be wrong about this, was Meg Foster, like the Meg Foster with the eyes. You know what I mean? But I could be wrong about that. I know that Meg Foster was somehow involved in all of this. I don't know if she ever directly got sexually assaulted by Bill Cosby, but she was with a roommate when some shit went down. Okay? So I know that, but I don't really remember if it was her or not. So she says her and her roommate used to hang out with Bill Cosby and kind of became buddies with him. Like, it wasn't anything weird or nothing like that. And like I said, this is a pretty common thing where he would sometimes hang out with women for a while. Like, just as friends, or like, I'll help you get acting gigs or whatever. Like, he would do that kind of shit for a long time. So you didn't have any reason to like mistrust him because he'd been normal like this whole time, and then suddenly bam, like he would pull this shit on you. So that's kind of, like I said, why a lot of women were surprised, because they were kind of fucking betrayed. This was their friend, they thought, and then this happened after all this time. So they had hung out, and they were friends with him. They knew he was married, so they thought everything was on the up and up. But she says that they she goes to this apartment that was his friend's apartment, and she said she kind of had a real bad headache that night, and she says, oh, Bill gives her like a pill, there's just like a painkiller, you know what I mean, which, like I said, that's kind of a normal thing for a friend to do, right? So she's like, okay. So she takes it, and she doesn't remember much of anything. She said the next thing she remembers is that she woke up naked, and she was in the bed with him, and he's in there, like, in his, also naked, like, just with a robe on, you know what I mean, like, kind of doing shit. So that was the next thing. So that was another thing that he would do too, is that he would, it's like, hey, I have a painkiller or a Benadryl or whatever, like something like innocuous, and it would turn out to be, yeah. And like I said, sometimes he cultivated relationships with these women like over a long period of time, so they trusted him. So it almost kind of seems like he got off on kind of laying this groundwork where it's like they thought he was their friend or their mentor or whatever, and then all of a sudden, bam, like sexual predator. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like that happened a lot. 1970, Victoria Valentino. Now, she was actually a former Playboy playmate, and she got introduced to Bill Cosby by another Playboy playmate in 1970. And she says that her roommate like went out for dinner and stuff with Bill Cosby, and says that he gave her some kind of pill that would cheer her up or whatever. And then she says that her and her roommate, like Bill Cosby, drove them up to this apartment, they don't know whose it was, in the Hollywood Hills. And then they were kind of drugged up, and he made her like suck his dick. And then he raped her. And she wanted to report it, she says, but this was 1970. She was a Playboy bunny. And she thought, probably realistically, that no one was going to believe her. She's like, he was kind of famous and was kind of known and stuff like that. And, you know, nobody really reported anything like this back then because it's like, you know, who was going to believe us? Nobody. So she didn't really report it. Another one in 1970 that happened was Autumn Burns. And she was working as a waitress at a casino in Las Vegas. And she actually went to one of his shows in Vegas. And then afterward, he liked her, I guess. And so he gave her a drink, like bought her a drink. And she drank it and she started feeling real weird. Really out of it. And then she claims he took her up to his hotel suite and raped her. So there's that also. 1971, Louisa Moritz. Now she's an actress. She was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, among many other things. And she basically said that her and Bill Cosby were on the Johnny Carson Tonight Show in 1971. And she says that Bill Cosby forced her to give him a BJ behind the scenes of the Tonight Show in 1971. And she was upset about it, but she said when she said something about it, he basically said, this is what she said that he said, "You don't want to upset me and the plans for your future, do you?"
Yeah.
That's what he said. So I kind of feel like he used, and this is only 1971, and he had a lot of clout at this time, at least compared to a lot of the women that he was assaulting, because a lot of the women were trying to make it in the industry. They were trying to, you know, be actresses and stuff like that. So he would kind of like butter them up by saying, it's like, hey, I can get you an interview with this producer. I could do this and that and the other thing. Or I can mentor you. I can help you out. And then he would force them into shit like that. And if they complained, he'd say, well, you'll never work in this town again, basically, is one thing that he would do.
Hey, Sess, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Sess, what's up?
How's the kids doing?
I gotta pee.
Okay. Yeah, I had to go downstairs for a second and put some chicken breasts in there. Had that. Put some vegetable oil on them. Sprinkled them with salt, seasoned salt, pepper. Got them in there for about 40 minutes. Have 400 in a little mini oven I have. I'm going to put them on a salad. I got a bunch of greens from the garden out in there. I'm going to make a salad for me and Jim. Got sweet potato leaves, lettuce, fucking fresh parsley, fresh oregano that I grew, fresh basil, green peppers, and some jalapenos that I grew. All that shit grew. And that way we're gonna have a salad after the show. I'm gonna serve that with a vinaigrette. Olive oil, vinegar. I may use balsamic vinegar. It depends on how I feel at the time. And I'll use all those Italian spices. Put that in there. Then I'll pour that over there with the chicken. Pre-slice that chicken breast and put that on top of the fucking lettuce. It's gonna be good. So, let's see who we got in the show. Yeah, Tess only got one kid. That's right, I forgot. Tess is from Australia. She's a beautiful black female, what I call black metal chick. Those girls like the black metal and shit. She's into that.
What I mean?
She's been a fucking fan of the show for fucking a long time, maybe close to 10 years.
Who's that?
Tess.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, sorry, I was just in the bathroom. Couldn't hear
All right,
anything
Jen's
that was
back.
going on. I'm back.
Demetrius says, fucking makes you think again about Bob Saget's joke about kids. I don't really remember exactly what that.
Yeah, I don't remember what he said exactly, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. Like, I understand, like, joking about shit. We joke about shit that we don't do, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you keep joking about the same thing, like, in a way that kind of seems like you're serious, then you know what I mean. And the fact that, I don't know, maybe it's just, like, creepy in retrospect. I do remember thinking, even in the 80s, watching his Bill Cosby himself, HBO special, which I saw multiple times, it did strike me that he seemed, the way he was talking, he was almost like minimizing child abuse. Because some of the shit that he was saying about his kids, I was like, that sounds kind of abusive. Like, even in the 80s, I was thinking that. I was like, that sounds kind of fucked up. And he was kind of like joking about it. I'm like, maybe he's just kidding. I don't really know. But now I'm not so sure. You know? Yeah. Now I'm not so sure.
Dimitri's talking about our Indian food. We're going to have another party at the house. I'll do more Indian.
One of these days.
Yeah.
We have a much bigger house now. It's just It's just so much farther away.
Yeah.
From everybody. But we have been wanting to have another party.
Yeah, I'm starting to get it decorated and shit out there in the fucking family room. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll wait till the summer's over, though. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Because Laura was asking for that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I want to have another one. It's just, you know.
We're just going to have just friends, though. We're going to have that shit open to the fucking community. Like
well, that's what we said last time, and look what happened.
Know in my house. Like, who the fuck are you?
Although it turned out okay. I mean, nobody wrecked the place. Or
some dudes wanted to fucking spend the night there.
Everyone was we didn't let anybody stay the night.
I'm too drunk to drive. I said, well, you shouldn't have gotten that drunk.
Just go.
I don't know you. You can't stay here.
Nobody even messed the house up or anything.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like that was a good party. We still talk about it. That was like years ago. All right, so where was I? Okay, so 1971. We got a long way to go. Long way to go, folks. A long way to go.
Shit will be done in about 40 minutes.
Okay. I mean, I can maybe wrap it up in that time period. Donna Motzinger. This also happened in 1971. And she said that she was one of the witnesses that came forward in the case that was in 2005 that was filed against Cosby. And she says that she was drugged and raped while she was working as a jazz club waitress in Sausalito, California. That was another thing. It kind of seemed like either he would go after cocktail waitresses that he thought were hot, or it was like women that he was mentoring, like, and that had known for a long time. It seems like those were the two categories.
That's who he was targeted, yeah.
Of women that he knew.
Because they were vulnerable.
Yeah, well,
the ones that he was mentoring needed him. And then the cocktail waitresses were hot, but they don't have any money.
Yeah,
not compared to him. So that's why.
And like I said, I kind of feel like he knew to target people that were. They couldn't really say anything because even at this point in the early 70s, he was still pretty well known, and pretty famous. So it's like even if they said something about him, I don't think anybody would believe it. And I think he knew that, and he was using that to his advantage.
And they don't have cocktail waitresses anymore. That's a thing of the past. Remember those?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Those real nice nightclubs. They'd be serving dinner in there and putting on shows. It was like a bunch of booths overlooking a stage. They have an act going on, and then you were being served your drinks were being served by fucking waitresses, cocktail waitresses.
Yeah.
Usually in kind of like real short skirts, kind of skimpy outfits.
So all the dudes could like grope them and shit.
Yeah,
they probably just had to put up with it. Oh, I'm sure some did.
Well, if they were paying, depends on how much they were tipping.
And they're just like, yeah, great.
If they knew the dude, yeah.
Yeah, just stick your
fingers
in my vagina.
Well, there were women in the audience too. My mother used to go to those places.
Yeah,
I remember. Like she used to take me some of
that was super classy back then.
It was all super classy. Yeah.
Super classy.
Yeah, they wore little short frilly skirts and shit. Looked like a Playboy bunny kind of. Bring your drinks. Dudes would flirt with them, and then it was like a big deal if they would invite you to come sit at their table if they were famous and shit. Nowadays that shit wouldn't work. All those, you got people renting fucking VIP tables and bottles and shit. I don't even think that works.
Yeah, that's like that seems so old school to me.
Too old school, yeah.
I'm like, really? You're paying all that? Like, nobody cares anymore, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You're wasting your money.
Women don't care.
I mean, if you want to piss it away, that's up to you. It's your money, but it's just kind of like...
The women only care how hot are you, what do you dress like, and fucking how popular are you. What's your status? They don't care about what table you're at.
Yeah, because that seems a little... I mean, to women, that kind of shit seems like super try-hard. Yeah.
Try-hard, douchey.
And try-hard is, like, not appealing.
Yeah.
If you gotta try to be cool and look like you got money and shit like that, then you're obviously
You can't buy cool.
No.
You're just cool or you're not cool.
Yeah.
And if you're not cool and you have money...
and it doesn't have anything to do with money either. You're either cool or you're not.
Yeah, you're either cool or you're not.
And if you have to tell people you're cool, then you are not cool.
If you're not cool and you have money, then you're fucking actually in a bad position. Yeah, you're in a bad position. Those dudes can't get women.
No.
They're not cool.
Yeah, because women are just like, they'll
Like, oh,
fucking
that
stay
motherfucker.
away.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sad. Like, if you have all that money and women won't even pretend to put up with you,
Yeah.
that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Then they
'Cause
hire
some women
dating
will-
coaches.
Some women will pretend to put up with you for a while if you got
Yeah.
money, but man, that's difficult.
Those dudes will hire dating coaches to figure out
Yeah.
what it is they're doing wrong. Well, first of all, man, you made your money in IT. You're a douche.
It's like, one,
Okay.
you're a douche.
You're a fucking douche.
Fix
all right?
that.
You make $200,000, $300,000 a year, but you're a fucking douche.
After you fixed being a douche,
Yeah.
then maybe we can talk.
Right, yeah. You gotta lose 50 pounds and you gotta go start going to the gym. And,
But like I said,
Yeah.
the number one thing, stop being a douche. Easy.
yeah.
Like the weight loss and stuff, that can come later. Like I said, women are a lot more forgiving of physical shit if you're like a cool person. But if you're not even that, then you're not even
A
gonna.
lot of times the dude will strike it rich and he comes from a nerdy background. And then he wants a fucking, like a real cool chick that used to turn their nose up at him when he was going to the club and he was, you know, in his early 20s. But you can't get that on money. It's a lot more than that. If you come in with girls with fucking money, they'll just fucking laugh at you. Like, I'm not a hooker. You know, that's what they're... That's really what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I mean, bro, like
And
if
the
some,
girls
like,
that will accept that, he's not going to be happy with that.
yeah, some douchey
So-
motherfucker came at me like that, and be like, me, not for any price, no
Yeah,
thanks.
you show up in a fucking, you know, dude from fucking, fucking UAE, United Arab Emirates, and you show up in a fucking Ferrari or a fucking Lambo or something with a bunch of money. They're going to be running from you because they go, oh, we've seen this before. We've seen this shit before.
No one wants to put up
Now,
with
if
that
you're a cool
nonsense.
dude, that's not going to be a problem. But the chances of you being a cool
Like
dude.
I said, all you have to be, like I said,
Yeah.
women are very, like, looks,
Yeah.
to a large extent, do not really matter as much, to a woman, at least generally. As long as you're, like, a cool person, you can hang out, like, you're good to us, shit like that. We don't really care that much what you look like. It's not really that important. It's not, like, super high up on the hierarchy of things.
I'm going to amend that a little bit because I'm a man.
Well-
Looks do matter.
Oh, so
but-
you're mansplaining?
yeah, I'm a mansplaining.
What a woman
I'm
feels
explaining
like?
to them.
Okay.
Looks do matter, but they're not the deciding factor. The looks just get you in the door. They just if you.
I
you
mean,
look-
that's as far as...
yeah.
And honestly, like
They
I
just
said,
get
I
you
don't
in the
even
door.
really give a shit about that. Like I said, if I'm going to look at somebody physically, it's going to be another
Yeah.
woman. I don't look at other dudes
Yeah.
like that. I
But
just
in
don't.
general, for dudes, yeah, you're gonna be judged by your look. That will get you in the door, but you gotta fucking deliver once you're in the door. You
Yeah,
have
if
the
you're a
right personality,
douchebag,
if you're
no,
yeah,
it doesn't matter how hot you are.
yeah. And
You're gonna be like
and
fucking
contrary to
poison.
what people think, money is not all that important. What it is more branding. Like they got dudes that are fucking surfers and shit. They're hot as shit. They don't have a fucking dime, but they got a rich girlfriend
Yeah.
because he's a fucking hot surfer. That was the brand she was looking for.
And he's probably,
A
like,
surfer.
cool to hang
And
out
he's cool,
with.
right? Yeah. I know dudes, horse dudes that fucking knew them from Hipica Paulista in Sao Paulo, who were nothing but grooms, low-level Brazilian grooms in Brazil. They're here now. One of them I'm thinking of. He's here now with a multi-million-dollar girlfriend in a huge fucking barn she bought for him. He was her trainer.
Yeah.
He was hot.
She just liked him because he was kind of...
He was
cool
hot.
to her. He was cool to her.
He was cool to her. He was a hot equine trainer, English equestrian
He didn't
horse
have no
trainer.
money.
He didn't have no money. She had all the money. It didn't matter. So they're in business together.
Yeah. he
So
had no money.
yeah.
I think incels that aren't getting any focus too much on
Focus too much on money.
money and looks, and it's
Yeah.
just like they're not as important as you think they are.
Right.
Like, get a personality first, please.
Yeah.
That's kind of the most important thing.
Yeah,
Then
I-
we can talk about the other
I
shit.
do research off the show and shit. One of them I was looking at what was happening in the Chinese dating market. The man, these girls are wanting all kinds of shit from these dudes. A certain salaries, how many cars, houses, and shit like that. But then the Chinese dudes complain to, yeah, but if he's from America or Europe and he's hot, none of that matters. Like, yeah. If he's hot, and he's from another country, he's foreign, then yeah, none of that income stuff and you're educated, none of that will matter.
Yeah,
Because
but
that's not the way women operate.
no, we're kind of, I'm
They
sorry.
go with what they like.
We're kind of complicated.
Yeah, they go with what they
And
like.
we're not even entirely sure. Like I said, I'm not really entirely
They don't know what
sure
they like until they see it.
what I like until I see it.
Yeah.
I don't have a type.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very, that's very
This
limited.
is dating advice. They're not paying for dating
very
advice. We got
limited.
to get back to the show. We got fucking chicken coming and everything.
Yeah, Full Metal Nosferatu says, yeah, Jenny, he would talk about his kids being beaten with a yardstick by his wife. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
See, I remember, like, in the 80s watching Bill Cosby himself and being like, are you guys beating your kids? Because
They kind of did that though.
that's not cool. Like, I know that was more
Corporal
accepted
punishment. Yeah.
back then. But I kind of thought it was fucked up. Like, I didn't get beat as a child. I don't know if that was just... I mean, my parents were not really like that, but also I was, like, the model child.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do anything bad, so I didn't really deserve to get beat.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought that was kind of messed up. It always kind of bothered me. I was like, why are you talking about beating your kids? I was like, well, but yeah. And that was even back in the 80s. All right, so, like I said, we got a lot to get through.
Yeah.
A lot of victims to get through. Catherine McKee. This was early 1970s. Now, she was an actress and also a showgirl. And she says that Bill, old Bill, met her or raped her in a Michigan hotel room in the early 1970s. Now, she was actually on tour with Sammy Davis Jr. Now, Sammy Davis Jr. at this time, according to her at least, had an open relationship with his wife. So this woman, Catherine McKee, was his like tour wife. So she would go on tour with him and service him, I'm assuming. But I'm guessing that Sammy Davis Jr.'s wife was okay with it.
It was his own relationship.
Because he had an open marriage at the time, at least according to her. So it's like that's kind of how all of that went. So this one was like, you know, with Sammy Davis Jr. at the time. And so they were in Michigan, and she says that she had known, and see, this is another thing. She said she knew Bill Cosby for 8 years, and he had seemed completely normal until this one particular night in the early 1970s. She went to have dinner with him at his hotel. Like, she knew him for a long time. Like, she didn't have any reason not to trust him or anything like that. And she says they go up to the room or whatever, and as soon as she walked in the door, he spun her around like that, pulled her panties down, just stuck his fucking dick in her.
Oh, shit.
And, like, she was like, what the... So, like, she didn't even have any fucking time to react to it. Like, that kind of shit. And she had known him for a long time. So she was just, like, completely shocked.
There's something about it. He got a certain kind of... He got what he thought was a signal that he was good to go. I guess he got fucking emotionally riled up. He thought she wanted it.
I can't imagine. Can we just not? Can we just not? I don't get it.
Well, you're dealing with a dude that has a lot of fame and a lot of money, and probably pretty delusional in his own little bubble.
I mean, even still, like,
He's
was
in his
not...
bubble.
This is early 70s, so it's not, like, even as famous as he got later, like in the 80s.
He just thought he could do it.
So the fact that he had this level of entitlement at this stage in his career, when he was still kind of famous, but not, like...
All these slutty-ass women, man, he's just going to have his way.
Like, I guess that's kind of what he thought, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like... In some way, I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, do I feel bad for his wife? I'm not sure, because I kind of feel like, okay, she might be a victim too. He might be gaslighting her. She might be used to the abuse. She married him when she was 19, for fuck's sake, and they've been together all this time.
No, she just grew up with it.
So she's probably just, like, used to the abusive behavior at this point, and she's just, like, internalized it, perhaps?
It may not be abusive. It might just be that he wanders and she just takes it for granted. Like, oh, yeah, it's like an open relationship.
Maybe. But like I said, I'm not really sure. I mean, the fact that he felt the need, as we'll see later, to pay off women to keep it from her...
Yeah. You want to get heat?
Suggests to me that she probably didn't know. I mean, obviously she's got to know now because he did admit it.
He didn't want all that extra heat, man.
But I can't imagine staying with somebody for all of that time.
Yeah.
I know it was a different era.
It's a different era, and she grew up with him. She can't go anywhere.
I guess not. And like I said, I guess
all that time she put
he's got a lot of money. It's like, maybe it was like a sunk cost fallacy thing where she's just like, man, I've been with him all this time. We had 5 kids. We have all this whole life. We have all this money and stuff like that. Like, it sucks, but I can't go anyplace.
That's what it is.
I just hope she's getting some elsewhere. That's all I can hope.
She's old.
Well, she's old now, but I'm just saying, like, at the time. Like, she wasn't old. She wasn't old now. But,
Tanner says, Tom acts like we're all from another planet. Y'all are from another planet.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
Y'all just don't like it. Y'all are just mad because you can't figure it out.
No, I figured it out.
No, you haven't.
I figured it out.
I
pretty much understand.
He's pretty much figured it out.
Pretty much understand. Yeah, I understand. Women don't know what they want until they see it.
Well, yeah, it's just, we're kind of in a nebulous, it's kind of like a Schrodinger's cat situation.
Yeah.
Where you're just kind of like, no one's hot, until
they are.
You know that person. Because, like I said, you see somebody physically, they're provisionally hot. But then, like, you talk to them for a second, you're like, this person's not hot anymore.
Yeah.
It's completely ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Like, the second they open their mouth.
But that's just you.
No, that's a lot of people.
I've run into women that as soon as they saw me, they wanted to fuck.
Well, yeah, but it's like they might have been picking up on other things about you.
Yeah. But it's just the old...
That because you're not... I mean, you're kind of a dick, but you're not, like, the bad kind of dick.
Well, one of them that was like, that was my first wife.
Ooh.
As soon as we hooked up the night I met her.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that...
And she dumped her boyfriend.
Yeah.
She had a boyfriend at that time. I stole that shit.
You kind of stole me, too. Well, I don't know what I want to put that way. You didn't really, but...
Nah, you guys were already on the outs.
Yeah.
But so were they.
But that's the thing. I think women respond to things other than physicality. They see things. They see how you...
It's the full package.
They see how you react to other people. They see how your body language. They pick up on a lot more shit.
It's the full package. It's just the overall charisma.
Yeah.
It's what you look like. And what you look like involves how you carry yourself, what clothes you're wearing. Is it the proper brand for the market that you're going after? Like, are you in a goth club and you're dressed like a goth? Then the goth girls they're gonna respond to that. If you're in a fucking sports bar, the girls aren't gonna respond to that. Or they might over respond. The dudes want to kill you. You don't know.
Well, that's what usually happens.
It's fucking But listen, we got to get back in the subject.
Yeah, I got a lot more victims.
I know what I'm talking about.
I got a lot more things to get.
Yeah.
Helen
Hayes.
Hayes.
About chicken. The chicken's down there cooking.
Okay, but you shouldn't have started it this early.
No, it's on a timer. It'll turn off.
Okay. Helen Hayes, 1973. Not that Helen Hayes. I know there's a very famous Helen Hayes. It's an actress. This is a different Helen Hayes. Now, she says that she met Bill Cosby in 1973, and they were at this like celebrity golf tournament in Pebble Beach, California, and that Bill Cosby and some friends of his were like stalking them. Like they kept like creeping, you know what I mean? And they noticed it. And then she says on the last night of the tournament that he came up behind her suddenly and like reached over and like grabbed her tit like that. And she was obviously that's sexual assault or sexual battery. What would that technically be if somebody comes up and grabs your tit like that? Is that sexual battery?
Battery.
Remember. Yeah. I can't remember. I don't remember.
Could be sexual assault or sexual battery.
Yeah.
Depends on the state.
That's depending on what it is. This happened in California in the early 1970s.
Probably sexual battery.
I would assume. Charlotte Fox, mid-1970s. Now, she was working on an extra on a movie that Bill Cosby was in 1974, which is called Uptown Saturday Night, which I've never seen the whole thing, but I've seen clips of it. And she says that Bill Cosby invited her to a party at the Playboy Mansion that he was hosting. And so she says she goes to this party. There was other people there. And she says, basically, she got drugged because all she remembers is like, I remember going to the bathroom, and she's like, I kind of remember coming back from the bathroom. But the next thing I remember, I was in a bed, naked, and there was Bill Cosby in a robe, like crawling up on her, like from the bottom of the bed. Like that's the last thing she remembers. So she remembers like basically him raping her while she was fucking out of it, which was kind of his MO, seems like. Judy Huth or Huth, I'm not really sure how you pronounce her last name, which, if you remember, this is, he actually did convicted of, there was a civil conviction in this case. This supposedly happened in 1974. So she says she met him back in 1974. She was 15 years old, and she was with a friend of hers who was 16. And she says that her and her friend, they're teenagers, you know, and they kind of wander onto this movie set where Bill Cosby was working, like on a movie. And she says that Bill kind of like made friends with them and invited them over to his house. They're teenagers, they're dumb, they're just kind of like, okay. So they go over there and he gives them booze. Now she says that he was very aware that they were underage. But says that gave them some alcohol and took them to a party at the Playboy Mansion and says, if anybody asks, you're 19. That's what she said. And then she says, while they're at the party, she says she comes out of the bathroom in, one of the bathrooms of the Playboy Mansion, and Bill was sitting there on bed waiting for her, and then basically grabbed her hand and made her either jerk him off or give him a blowjob. That's what she says. So yeah. So she was basically she was a teenager. You know what I mean? So there was that. So underage. Great. Tamara Green. This happened in 1975. So this was one of the cases that came out in light of the 2005 allegations. She was one of the Jane Does in that case. So basically, she says she goes to an LA restaurant for dinner with not just Bill Cosby. There was Bill Cosby and like a bunch of other people. Like so she was going to like a dinner. And she said she was kind of sick. She kind of had the flu. And she said something about it. And that Bill gave her some pills for the flu. Oh, I've got some pills for that. Yeah, he's got pills for fucking everything. He got pills for flu. They're all the same fucking pills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here, I got some pills for the flu.
Yeah, he's going to flu you down to the fucking foot of the bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Ass hanging over the side.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So he gives her these pills. She thinks they're like flu medication. Other people were there. You know what I mean? Gives her some pills thinking they're flu medication. So she takes them. And before long, she's like pretty much blacking out. And then she says that Bill took her back to her house, took her clothes off, and started groping her. And she says that she caused so much trouble for him. She's like, she was aware enough and she knew what was going to happen that she's like, hey, if you do this, you're going to have to fucking kill me. And she like made a big stink about it. Yeah. And then he got mad and he says he got like super indignant, left two $100 bills on her coffee table.
Yeah, trying to pay her off.
And left her apartment.
Yeah.
This was another common thing that he would do. Like he would leave a bunch of money, like, and they're like, "Hey, that's all you're worth, baby," or something like that.
No, that's
classy.
Your fee. That's your fee, babe.
Classy.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Paying you.
Super classy.
You my hoe.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying you're a whore, and here's your fee, which, like I said, very, very denigrating.
Although, man, I heard fucking stories, though, that was back in the 70s, that was, like, supposedly some classy shit to do. If you were fucking dating some chick and fucking you had slept with her to fucking break her off some fucking money before you left. It wasn't like a hooker thing. It was just, from what I remember, it was kind of like you contributing to fucking keep the lights on at the place. You know, but that's just the way the 70s were.
That
70s were wild.
Very
70s were wild.
Well, I would be offended. I mean, I think most women would be offended, even back then.
I think a lot of them back then weren't, because you got to understand, fucking the traditional thing is that there was no dating. You just got married out of fucking high school, and fucking a man fucking supported you. All right. But by the time the 70s had rolled around, you started having you started to have women fucking working for a living and being single for longer. So I think they kind of saw it as crowdsourcing a husband, in a way.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But like I said,
and it was just like he's trying to contribute.
I don't know. I don't think it was. I wasn't there.
In this motherfucker's case, he's trying to pay her off.
Of course.
But I'm saying, I think...
Well, and he did that for real, too, like, many times.
I remember hearing about it through, like, relatives and shit. You know, my aunts and shit would say shit like that. You know, but I think what it was is that if you were dating a guy, he would try to help you. And he'd give you money.
I don't know, but that seems like a really shifty way to do it, though.
Women didn't make as much money back then.
Well, no, I know that. I'm just saying that if you were going to do that, you could feel like a kind of less denigrating way to do it. Mm. It's just kind of like... You know what I mean? Hey, is it okay if I pay your electric bill this month? Or something like that. Like, don't just, like, throw some money on the nightstand.
So, I don't think it was not a nightstand type deal. I think, but
like, here, I'm paying for your services. That seems a little...
the stories I remember hearing is that they would just, like, hide money in a place where they would find it. Like a hidden gift. And it was like, oh, it wasn't me. It was like deniable, that type of shit.
Like I've never heard that. But
Yeah,
I mean, that might have happened.
That was a California thing.
Maybe it was. I never heard that. But like I said, I kind of feel like any dude that would have sex with you and then would leave some money on the nightstand or whatever, that I would be offended. I think most women would be offended. Even back then, I think they would have been offended.
I don't think the mentality was exactly the same.
Maybe not.
I remember.
But I mean, I was alive in the 70s. I was just a kid, but it's just I don't know.
I was talking about California, and California.
I don't know.
Things were it was expensive to live there, and fucking single women were having problems. You know what I mean? Making enough money to pay the bills. And look, man, y'all are proud now, but that's not the way it was back in the 70s. I can kind of remember it. You know what I mean? As a kid. Women were not. The economy was not designed for a single woman.
Well, you couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
like I said, a
woman
enough money. Couldn't even have a credit card in her own name until 1974. Yeah, maybe later.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Well, credit cards,
I was alive at that time.
Yeah, credit cards were for rich people that owned companies.
You couldn't even if you wanted anything in your own name and you were like unmarried, they wouldn't let you do anything.
Yeah.
And that was like recent. That was in my lifetime.
That wasn't the government, though. Those were private companies doing that. And credit cards were kind of new. It started with Diner's Card. I don't want to get into history, though.
Well, yeah, you're taking too long.
And that was just a local companies doing that.
Full Moon on Nosferatu, Part 1. Jenny, I don't mean to jump ahead, but I wanted to tell this. Before everyone came forward about Cosby, he is being interviewed on NH Rock Radio. I'm assuming you mean New Hampshire. And the host and the crew had absolutely no idea what he was talking about, just incoherent rambling. One co-host, the late Andy Blacksmith, was laughing so uncontrollably that Greg, the host, had to turn off his microphone so Cosby couldn't hear him, laughing at him. But once the interview was over, the whole group were creeped out and baffled by Cosby's nonsensical rants. Here's the thing. Like, even before the allegations came out, like, I saw some interviews with him like right around that time period or a little bit after that time period. Dude seemed like he was drunk as fuck. Like, I'm just like, look, I'm drunk as fuck. It's like, you know, I'm not hating. But like, he seemed drunk as fuck on like everything he said, it seemed like super slurred and it seemed like it wasn't super coherent. You know what I mean? Like, I know his whole like stand-up thing was doing the whole you know, he was doing that weird fucking shit that he always did, like making up words and like onomatopoeia and stuff. But it's just kind of like, he seemed like he was coming across like he was really out of it. And I don't know if that was drugs or alcohol or he's just like that, or I'm not really sure. You know what I mean? But I did see some interviews with him where I see what you're talking about. Because I'm like, is that dude drunk? Because he sounds drunk. Like, he's not making any sense. So, maybe. So I see what you're talking about. And this is before the shit came out. Because, like I said, I kind of feel like people didn't really widely know about this stuff until 2014. I kind of feel like it was going around prior to that. But it didn't really go mainstream until 2014. All right, so where was I? Okay. Marcella Tate, 1975. Again, this woman went to a party that she was invited to at the Playboy Mansion as Bill Cosby's guest. And he gave her a drink, and she started feeling, in her words, cloudy. That's how she felt. And she says that she woke up in some bed. She didn't know where the fuck she was. And that Bill Cosby was naked in the bed next to her. And she doesn't really remember what happened. So great. Yeah. So you're seeing a pattern, like I said. Therese Serenez, I'm not really entirely sure. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This was also mid-1970s. She says she met Bill Cosby in Las Vegas after one of his stand-up shows. She was 19 years old at the time. And she says that he kind of strong-armed her into taking Quaaludes, which was his kind of drug of choice at the time. Very big drug in the 70s, Quaaludes. And then basically, after she was kind of fucked up, coerced her into doing some sexual shit. She says that she felt like super high, and she doesn't really remember what happened, but she says she remembers being in the room. I think it was like in a hotel. And she says she remembers seeing him naked, and she was naked, but she doesn't know how she got her clothes off. Like, she doesn't remember what happened. And she says he basically, like, bent her over and was saying all kind of, like, dirty shit to her, and she has no idea what happened. And she's like, she didn't know what to do.
Bent her over. What did he bend her over? Did he say?
I don't know. I guess it was, like, in a bathroom or something. Okay. So there was that.
Damn.
Sean Brown, who's sometimes known by some different last names because she's married a couple times since then. This was also mid-1970s. Now, this is one of the only women, I think it's only one of 2 women, that Bill Cosby did admit to having a consensual sexual relationship with. Because, like I said, for some reason, he was very adamant that his wife not find out about his numerous affairs, although it's like, how could she not fucking know, bro? You were, like, sticking your dick in anything that moved. I don't understand how she wouldn't have known that. And I guess she was just putting up with it.
She knew. She didn't. Yeah.
Of course she fucking knew. She had to.
It's going back to what I was saying. Back in that era, relationships were more transactional.
You kind of had to put up with it.
Yeah, and they were more transactional, too. Is what people were getting out of it and what you would lose if you broke up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about it that was shitty is that women in this era, you didn't really have a lot of recourse to live on your own. Like I said, you couldn't buy property in your own name in some states. You couldn't have a credit card. You couldn't do this, that, and the other. And so it's just kind of like, well, you were kind of stuck.
Well, it's like that in certain countries right now.
Well, yeah, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And it was like that here in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to put up with all of their shitty behavior because what the fuck else are you going to do? You're going to be on the fucking street. So they didn't like it.
Better.
They didn't like it. It's not better.
Yeah.
What?
Being on the street might be better than some of this.
Well, depending on the situation, I might agree with you.
Yeah.
I thought you meant it might be better for us to just put up with it. I'm like,
no,
oh,
it might
absolutely.
be better to just be on the street.
Yeah. In some cases, it probably would be.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like super abusive or something like that. Yeah, I'd rather sleep under a fucking bridge, to be honest with
Somebody will take it home eventually.
But, I mean, you'll figure something out. Like, it sucks,
somebody
but...
will rescue you.
Well, I mean, it sucks. You can go to a shelter or something like that. Like, you can figure something out, I would think. Just don't get your fucking
kids
ass
involved,
beat.
though, so she just kind of had to just...
That's what I mean. So it's like, it's kind of sad because, like I said, you didn't have a lot of recourse. You just had to kind of put up with so much fucking bullshit in this day. So it's just kind of like, so Bill Cosby did admit that he had an extramarital affair with this woman, Sean Brown. However, even though they'd had a consensual sexual relationship for quite a while, he still felt the need, for whatever reason, to drug and rape her. Even though she had slept with him willingly many times.
That was his kink, though.
Many times.
Yeah, that was his kink.
She said, I was reading an article, an interview with her in a newspaper from a while back. And she said she met him in a nightclub and they were dancing and stuff. And she knew who he was. And, he's like, hey, let's get to blah, blah. And she's like, aren't you married? And he was basically like, yeah, but, my wife and I have an understanding. Like, she just stays home and takes care of the kids. And I can basically do what I want. Like, he basically told her so. So, in her estimation, she thought he was implying that they had an open relationship. So, she thought it was okay. Evidently, this was not the case. But she didn't know that. That was just what he told her. So, they had sex consensually many times. However, on this one particular day, he got her to drink a bunch, and she smoked some dope, and then she blacked out, and he just fucked her while she was blacked out.
Yeah.
And she says, in her estimation, and this is a quote from her, she says, I had never really been into him, and the other times I'd really just been going through the motions. I don't think I was freaky enough for him, and that's why he drugged me.
Yeah, must have been doing something he wanted to do.
Yeah, like I kind of feel like
some privacy with it.
I feel like she nailed it.
Yeah.
She was willingly giving it up.
Yeah.
Like having sex with him, even though she wasn't, like, by her admission, super into him or anything. But I guess that wasn't enough for him, and he's like, no, I want her unconscious. That'd be, like, way hotter. Yeah. So that's what he did.
He must be going anal on him and shit.
I don't know.
Roughing him up.
Maybe. Now, this particular woman, Sean Brown, she claims that she got pregnant from this and had a daughter, whose name was Autumn Jackson, and she claims that Bill Cosby was, like, supporting the daughter on the down low, Now, Autumn Jackson, the daughter, actually did later get arrested and charged with felony when she allegedly tried to blackmail Cosby for $40 million for her to not tell about the affair and stuff. Now, she did get convicted of extortion, and she got sentenced to 26 months. But that was the daughter. That wasn't the mom.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how all of that shook out. Because I was just kind of like reading about that case. I'm like, well, what happened with that? So I had to like fucking look it up. But I don't know. 26 months? That doesn't really seem... What's that, 2 years?
Yeah.
A little over
That's
2 years.
actually kind of stiff.
For that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would think maybe like 10 months.
I mean, maybe she was trying to extort
She didn't
him.
get any money.
I guess not.
So I was thinking maybe 6 to
But like I
10
said, the
months.
mom didn't do that. The daughter did.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've done a paternity test, so I'm not really sure if that's really his daughter or not. I wouldn't doubt it, to be honest with you. But all the fucking shit he's done. So the next one, 1976. This is a woman who did not want her real name known, so she's just known as Elizabeth. And she says she met him on an airplane. She was 20, and she was a flight attendant. And she says that he was very charming and that he invited her to dinner at a Japanese restaurant. He gave her a glass of sake, and then she blacked out.
He met her on the plane?
Yeah. She was a flight attendant.
Yeah.
And then invited her out to dinner like later.
When they landed.
When they landed. Well, obviously when they're not up in the sky. You know what I mean? She says she kind of blacked out and woke up in his hotel room and was forced to do various sexual things to him, which she would not get into.
Forced to, or she just was conniving?
I mean, well, I don't know. Like I said, she was kind of out of it. Because apparently he drugged her shit.
Yeah.
As was his wont. As was his habit. Seemed like that was his big thing. Just drugging fucking people. Joyce Emmons. Late 1970s. Now, she was actually... she ran a bunch of comedy clubs. And her and Bill Cosby were friends. Like I said, this was another thing that happened a long time. Like, they would hang out for a long time, and they seemed normal, you know? Now, she did say that he had a whole fucking, what she called a drawer full of drugs. Particularly Quaaludes. That was, like, his favorite one. And she says that at one stage, she had a really bad migraine, and he gave her a pill, supposedly, to fix the migraine, but instead she blacked out. And when she woke up, she was in bed with him. She was actually not in bed with him. She was actually in bed with a friend of his who had been hitting on her earlier.
Oh,
So Cosby, like, fucking pimped her out.
her out. Yeah.
Great. This dude gets just shittier and shittier, like, with everything. 1979. PJ Maston. So she was working as a Playboy bunny at the Playboy Club in Chicago. And he somehow, like, lured her to his room, gave her some alcohol, and then she blacked out. She woke up several hours later and was in bed next to him, and he was naked. And she said that she knew that he had done the same thing to a bunch of other Playboy bunnies, but that most of them didn't want to talk about it. So she was kind of the only one that came out about it. There were a couple of other Playboy bunnies that said, but she said she knew a bunch of them that the same thing had happened to, and like they didn't want to talk about it. But she did come out and talk about it. Linda Kirkpatrick, early 1980s. She was actually, she said, she was 25 years old, and she was invited to come see his comedy show when he was performing at the Las Vegas Hilton. And then he invited her back to his dressing room, gave her a glass of champagne, which had drugs in it, and then he raped her. Lynn Neal, also in the early 1980s. She was also in her mid-20s and was again invited to one of his stand-up shows at the Las Vegas Hilton. And he took her out to get something to eat and bought her a drink. And then at that point, she goes back to his dressing room and couldn't walk. She was like fucking going all over like that. And then basically she like flopped on the couch and couldn't move, and he started like pulling her pants down and raped her. You know,
This dude's a serial rapist, man.
well, yeah, and we're still in the early 1980s.
Damn.
This shit goes up to like the 2000s, bro.
Damn.
Also early 1980s. Janice Baker Kinney. She says she met him in the early 80s. There was a pizza party that was at a casino that she worked at, and that was where she met him. And he gave her a couple pills that he said were something else, and she blacked out. And she woke up the next day in bed with him, and she didn't remember what happened. Janice Dickinson, probably the most famous of the accusers. She's a supermodel. Yeah, this was 1982. She basically said she was on the Howard Stern show and Entertainment Tonight and stuff like that. And she was actually kind of at a shitty point in her life. She'd been a drug addict. She was in rehab, and she had just gotten out of rehab in 1982. And she says that Bill Cosby invited her to come to Lake Tahoe, and that he had like a business opportunity, like an acting opportunity that he wanted to talk to her about. And so they go out to dinner. And she was kind of complaining that she, kind of was on the rag and was having really bad cramps and stuff. So he gave her a pill to fix that. Yeah. Yeah, we all know how that goes. And she says, and this is a quote, "The next morning, I woke up and I wasn't wearing my pajamas. And I remember before I passed out that I'd been sexually assaulted by this man. The first thing, before I woke up in the morning, the last thing I remember was Bill Cosby in a patchwork robe, dropping his robe and getting on top of me." So, yeah. So, great. She talked about that on the Howard Stern show, too. Although she had just had a book come out, and she couldn't talk about it because she was afraid she'd get sued. But she kind of alluded to it, you know what I mean? Renita Cheney Hill, 1982 to 1986. This was a woman that was allegedly in a consensual sexual relationship with Bill Cosby, and yet, you know what I mean? Now, she says that she started this relationship with him when she was only 15.
Ooh.
And that what happened at first was that he would give her some drinks and she didn't know what they were. And then when she would wake up and find herself in bed and didn't really know what happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she was just a teenager and she didn't remember anything. And she still kind of continued to like hang out with him for a couple of years, like until she was 19. And then she was like, yeah, fuck this shit. And she seemed kind of embarrassed about it. I guess because she didn't put a stop to it, but like I said, she was a fucking teenager and she probably didn't know what was going on. Like I said, women, particularly in this situation, you're always gonna be like, wait, did I remember that right? Or, we're always like questioning ourselves. So it's like, I'm not really sure if maybe she just thought, man, that didn't happen. Maybe he didn't do that. Like, why would he do that? You know what I mean? I get it. So it's like, so she just kept, like, continuing to see him and stuff, and she seemed kind of embarrassed about it later. Beth Ferrier, early to mid-1980s. Now, she was actually one of the 13 Jane Does that came out in light of the 2005 allegations. And she had also claimed to have a quite a long, several months long consensual affair with Bill Cosby. But had kind of broken it off with him. It's like, hey, I don't think we should see each other anymore. At which point, he gives her a cappuccino in his dressing room in Denver. Basically, look, I made your favorite coffee drink for you to relax you. So she drinks it and then blacks out. And then wakes up by herself, I believe in her car. And her clothes are all fucked up. Her bra is unhooked. All this other kind of stuff. She asked him about it later. And she says that he said, we'll never speak of this again. That's what she says he said. Yeah, this dude is fucking great.
He's a piece of work, man.
Yeah, like I said, piece of shit. 1984, Heidi Thomas. This is right when the Cosby Show was starting, around this time.
Heidi Thomas, sounds familiar.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So she was a model at this point, or an aspiring model. She was about 24 at this stage. And...
you were thinking Heidi Klum.
Yeah, that's a totally different person.
Right, yeah.
So she goes to meet with Cosby. Her agent sent her, actually, to Harrah's Casino in Reno.
Harrah's.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks like Harrah's to me. so that he could be her mentor. Yeah, he like helps a lot of women get started in the industry. There's that. So she flies to Reno, shows up at the airport, and she gets picked up by this driver, and he took her to this house, and then Bill Cosby was at this house. And she says, I get to the house, and then Bill asked her to do like a bunch of monologues, like acting exercises. And one of the exercises, she was supposed to act drunk. So she does that. And then he gives her a glass of wine, which she didn't, think anything about. And she drinks the wine, and then she, her memory becomes real fuzzy after that point. And she does not remember much of anything after that. She says when she woke up, basically his dick was in her mouth.
Damn.
So yeah.
What's funny is that this shit works.
Yeah.
He's doing this and it's working. They're not going to the cops.
They're
so in
probably
his
scared
mind,
to.
so his mind.
Oh, I guess it's okay.
I can do this. Yeah.
I can do this.
Method of doing it.
This is what happens when actions don't have consequences.
Now,
if somebody had just like punched him right in the dick or cut his dick off, ideally.
Yeah. Now this is what inquiring minds want to know.
It would have fixed this whole issue.
How big was that dick?
No one mentioned it.
They didn't mention.
Well, they don't mention it, so it must not have been super big or super small.
Okay,
it must have just been regular average. Because I kind of feel like if it was super big or super small, somebody would have brought it up.
Says on, yeah.
So it's probably just like regular, just like adequate. It never occurred to me to think that.
Yeah.
But now that you bring it up, yeah, I kind of feel like if it was extraordinary in any way, somebody would have
must have been average,
and nobody did. So it was probably just like adequate. You know what I'm saying? Just adequate, not too small, not too big. Same thing.
I just wanted it to add to my fucking study of dickology.
Dickology.
Oh, is it cockology?
He has a minor in cockology. His major is in boobology. And assology.
Yeah.
But
bootyology.
He is a minor in dickology.
Yeah, how big is it?
I mean, does it matter really? So. Fullmetal Nosferatu says...
something about the swag that dude gets with the size is big. I just wanted to know. Even Romans were like that. They'd have a fucking statue of a fucking monument to a dude who got killed and have his fucking head up there. His head and shoulders statue on top of the monument. His name, fucking when he was born, when he died. And then a statue of his dick sitting there so you can know how big he was.
But the thing is, though...
But they probably lied.
Of course.
You go to
if dudes lie about anything, then they lie about everything. That's probably the main thing they lie about.
That's fucking funny.
It's how big their dick is. But I don't know, man. I kind of feel like dudes with like little dicks, or what they perceive as little dicks, even if they're just average, are gonna try to like overcompensate by being like super like like arrogant and stuff.
On another show, man, I fucking went deep into fucking cockology as taught to me by a bunch of hookers that was watching on YouTube, and it was just fucking funny, you know what I mean, about what they think about dicks and shit. But then it led me into the fucking subject of the dude with the biggest dick in the fucking world is recorded. You can prove it. Is a dude in England. He's a white dude, and if you looked at him, you'd be like, him. That dude, he's got the big... He looked like Bilbo Baggins. And he says this is a curse. Says he pulls that out. Most women are just like, oh, hell no. And he's huge. He's like 18 inches. And like thick. And it's all documented and shit. And they don't want to have sex with him after that.
Well, yeah, that would hurt.
And then they a lot of times they can't have sex. So they got to just use manual, like...
I mean, it wouldn't be any fun.
Big old pocket pussy.
For the women, they'd be like, yeah no thanks.
Well, he says most of them fall into, oh, fuck no. And they're running, all right? They run, that's most of them. But he says every now and then you run into one she's just totally into it and just becomes fucking worship. But it's still manual, mostly.
Right. Well, yeah, because most women don't
because you can't do anything with it.
No.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's just going to hurt. It's not going to be any fun for you.
I guess so, yeah. So, some of you dudes wishing for the... I got a big dick. Got that shit on video. But some of you dudes, I'm wishing for even bigger shit, though. But no, they won't like it.
Over a certain size...
No matter how big you are, you want to be bigger. It's just...
Over a certain size, it's not. It's just a waste.
Yeah.
Because most women would be like, yeah... Well,
it's just in a man's nature, no matter how big you are.
Because like I said, women aren't going to have any fun fucking.
Yeah.
It's just going to be painful.
Yeah.
And no woman wants to subject themselves
Yeah,
to
you
that.
start going over 7 inches, they start to fucking... They can start to get pissed off.
Yeah, I mean,
especially if it's fat.
Like I said, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Like I said, nobody wants pain every time they fucking do it. It's not pleasurable.
And they said it's not so much the fucking length, really. It's mostly the girth.
Well,
But a lot of times the shit comes together. Okay, let's enough of the cockology.
Yeah, Fullman on Nosferatu was talking about the shit earlier. Yeah, I think he was supposed to be promoting his last Comedy Central special, but never brought it up once during the New Hampshire interview. Just seemed under the influence of who knows what. Yeah, I did see a couple interviews with him around this similar time period, and he seemed like super drunk to me. He was just like slurring, and like he was talking to, I don't remember this actress, but he was on some talk show. I don't know what talk show it was, but this actress was on there, and she had kind of a cute dress on, and he was like just leaning into her. It's like, this dress you were wearing, it's wonderful. You make me feel like a young man again. And he was just like, so, and I was like, oh my god, what the fuck is that dude on? It's like so creepy. But yeah. American Military 100 says, I watched Cosby MC the Apollo's tribute to Stevie Wonder in '84, and he told the audience, what's the use of being a star if you don't use it and abuse it? Well, that tells you all you need to know right there. Yeah. Like, really, that's the only reason you just want to be able to fucking lord it over people. Great. Just, I don't know. Just shitty people. Yeah. Beverly Johnson, mid-1980s. She was also a supermodel. And she actually auditioned for a role on The Cosby Show, because this was after it had already started. And she goes to a meeting with Bill Cosby. They were having a taping of the show, and they had like a meeting. And she said that at first, and a lot of women said this, that he seemed like really genuinely interested in her and her career, and it's like how to help her and all this other kind of stuff. And she says she got invited to go to his house on a couple of occasions. She went there a few times. Nothing bad happened. It was totally fine. But when she was there this one time, he gave her a cup of coffee, and it was spiked. Now, fair play to her. As soon as she drank it and started feeling weird, she's like, this motherfucker drugged me. Like, she knew what was going on. I guess it had probably happened before. It's happened to most of us, I guess. And he started trying to like grope her and shit, and she freaked the fuck out. Like, she started screaming and shit. And at this stage, I guess he decided that she was too much trouble. So he kicked her out of the house and put her in a cab. She was still kind of high at this point, but she kind of avoided like the worst of what the other women had gone through, thankfully, because she kind of immediately like knew what was going on. Now, interestingly, she was I think she might have been the only person that Cosby filed a countersuit against, like for defamation. But I really don't know. Like, he said the whole thing didn't happen, but you know how that fucking goes. All this shit about false allegations. Yeah, that's some bullshit. Sammy Mays, also mid-1980s. Now, she was interviewing him in 86. She was doing like she was covering a convention that he had been in New Orleans. And she says during this interview, he made her a drink, and she drank it, and she blacked out. And then when she came to, like, half of her clothes were off. She's pretty sure he raped her, but she doesn't entirely remember. Barbara Bowman, this happened also in 1986. She was one of the 13 Jane Doe witnesses, like I said, from the 2005 case. Now, she basically... she says that Bill Cosby had kind of befriended her like over a long period of time. Again, was a mentor to her. And so she had met with him on several occasions with nothing bad happening. But then, in 1986, he allegedly raped her in a hotel room in Reno. And basically, she says that he did that several times. Like, she said he also did it in Atlantic City and things like that. She says, and this is a quote, he threw me on the bed and braced his arm under my neck so I couldn't move my head, and he started trying to take his clothes off. I remember all the clinking of his belt buckle, and he was trying to take my pants down, and I was trying to keep them on. So yeah, she alleges that this happened at least 2 times, possibly more. But again, this was another instance where she had grown to trust him over, some time period earlier, and didn't have any reason to distrust him, so was comfortable being alone with him, and then he pulled this crap. So yeah, he did this multiple times with multiple women. Lisa Jones, this was 1986 also. She met him in 1986. She was 17 years old, and she was a model in Canada. And she says that he called the modeling agency that she worked for and invited her and her mom to come to a stand-up performance that he was doing in Vancouver. And again, as many women have alleged, he acted very much like a mentor, sort of father figure, at least at the start. And then later on, he invited her to fly to New York to audition for a role on The Cosby Show. But when she got there, she gets on the plane and she lands at the airport. And then she's picked up, she's driven to Cosby's house. He gave her alcohol. And then he started talking about women in the industry and how they got jobs through Casting Couch, blah, blah, blah. She's like, he started talking about crap like that. And it was pretty much that. And then she says she was kind of sitting on the couch. And she's like, he's walking past her. And he suddenly goes down his knee like that and tries to pull her legs apart. Grabbed her legs and tried to pull them apart. And she tried to get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? Because she's like, yeah, this is not good. Also in 1986, this woman named, I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong, Chelan? I'm not really sure. So she was also 17 at the time. She was working at the Las Vegas Hilton. She was an aspiring model. And she says that Bill pretended that he was going to further her career. So he was going to introduce her to different people at different modeling agencies and blah, blah, blah. So she shows up at his hotel suite in Las Vegas, and he hands her this blue pill and says, oh, it's an antihistamine. And then he gave her some alcohol. And then she pretty much passed out. She's like, but she remembers him sexually assaulting her. And then before he left her $1,500.
Damn.
And then she says that he says, hey, come see my show at the Hilton where she worked. And she said no, and then she got fired.
Wow.
So, that's nice. Jenna T.
Trying to pay her off.
Yeah, 1988. She did not want her last name to be used. She was also 17 at the time, so he liked him a little young, obviously. She was also at a modeling agency in New York and was sent to meet with Bill Cosby for whatever reason. So Bill Cosby even talked to her parents and said, oh yeah, I'm going to help your daughter. She'll become a model. I have all these connections and blah, blah, blah. So she goes to his, room, I guess. And it's just kind of she's over time, they knew each other for a while, but she's the interest that he showed in her seemed a little creepy and weird, and she was kind of uncomfortable with it. And she kind of confronted him about it. And he's like, hey, I'll pay for your college education and buy you a car. And also, he also forced her into some sexual shit that she didn't want, and then left $700 on her fucking nightstand before. So, classy dude. Classy. And was like, hey, I'll buy you all this stuff. So, like I said, he's obviously getting off on the fucking power trip.
Yeah, and he's trying to pay him off, trying to buy their silence, too.
Yeah, well, it worked for a while. Because some of them he did. They didn't say anything.
Because if they accept the money, then all of a sudden, now she's in the position, well, he paid for it.
Right. So it's now if I say anything, I'm going to look like a hooker.
A hooker, right, yeah. So he's setting her up for it.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
Because his defense would be, what are you talking about, man? We had an agreement, I paid her $1,500 and everything. Paid her $1,500.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly why he's doing that. Like I said, he's not dumb. He knows what he's doing.
He wasn't doing it out of the goodness of his heart.
No, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. Lisa, who did not want her last name used. This happened in 1988. She said that she was sexually assaulted by Bill Cosby when she was 21 years old. She was also trying to pursue a modeling career. And she says that she got invited back to Bill Cosby's house. He poured her some alcohol. She drank it. It was just a shot. And she started feeling super dizzy. And then she says, Bill Cosby was like, hey, come over here and sit with me on the couch. And then she says that he made her like sit, like he was sitting with his legs out like that and made her sit like in between his legs. And he started like petting her hair. And then she like blacked out and she doesn't remember anything. So I'm assuming something super bad happened. Jewel Allison, late 1980s. Again, model and actress aspiring, and Bill Cosby claimed that he could help her. And he invited her out to dinner at his house. He poured her some wine. She drank it, and started feeling. She pretty much went unconscious, and then he raped her.
Come to think of this, man, these cases that you know about, how many of them you know about? 60 of them?
There are 62 allegations, but like I said, those are just the women that came forward.
I bet yours 4 times.
Oh, I'm sure there's probably many times more than that.
Yeah, probably a lot more than that.
Because this seems like a pattern, and I'm sure, and it happened over several decades. I'm sure he was just doing this like super regularly.
Pretty regularly, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
He had it down to a science.
Yeah.
And they weren't ratting him out, and they were taking the money.
Some of them, but like not all of them. Like he didn't offer all of the money, but some of them he did.
Well, he offered the ones that he thought would give him trouble, like the $1,500 that supermodel. He's gonna have to pay her off. And he's like, well, "No, she was a hooker. What are you talking about? Paid her $1,500."
That's what I mean. That's how he's gonna spin it.
Yeah, that's how he's gonna spin it.
Well, she took the money, so
yeah.
Fulman on Nosferatu said, I remember Janice Dickinson on either CNN or Fox, and she did not hold back about him. Pig was her appropriate word for him. Yeah, after she wasn't afraid of like legal action anymore, like she came out and like.
And those models, you know what I mean? He's buying their silence. They're not good witnesses anyway, because the modeling agencies were fucking escort services for the very rich and fucking celebrities. That's what they were. That's where a lot of celebrities get their fucking girlfriends and wives, out of those escort. Well, they don't get them from escort agencies. They'll get them out of fucking modeling agencies. It's about the same thing. So she can't go to the law.
Well, I'm sure a lot of
them. Because you're a model, you're a fucking
too.
hooker. You know, that's what they...
Well, and like some of them were self-aware enough to know it's like, you know, they're not going to believe me. So what the fuck can I do?
Yeah.
And like I said, he's a lot more famous and rich than they are.
Right.
So it's like and rightly so.
Yeah, and the cops are going to be like,
believed that, you know, no one was going to do anything. Because no one did. No one did anything.
The cops are going, well, he's just drinking out of the same pool as all these other celebrities.
It's like, they all do that.
They all do that.
Boys will be boys.
Well, and these girls are hookers. That's another attitude. It's just a business deal gone bad.
Which is fucking horrible, but you know what I mean? That's why a lot of women don't report this shit.
Yeah.
So like I said, any of your rape allegations or stuff like that, I'm sure it's like fucking 10 times worse than what gets reported.
Yeah, but the thing is that the average situation that a woman can complain about is not this. Isn't dealing with her being an actress or a model out of these agencies, and it doesn't deal with
somebody that's
famous,
much
super
more powerful,
more powerful
than her.
That's not the same situation.
No, not quite.
So no, man, if anything goes down, fucking report that shit.
Yeah,
you're gonna save some other.
I mean, I know it sucks, but yeah, you got to save some other women the fucking heartbreak. Seriously. A woman named Casey, who did also not want her last name used. This happened in the early 1990s. And she worked at the William Morris Agency, very famous talent agency, obviously. She was an assistant to Cosby's personal assistant. And she got invited to his house to read a script with him. And he coerced her into taking some pill. And then she remembers waking up in a bed, and he was naked under his robe. And she pretty much quit the agency so she didn't have to see him anymore.
Yeah.
Angela Leslie, 1992. She was also an aspiring actress. She met with him in Las Vegas, and he actually tried to make her drink a drink that he made, but she would not do it. So good for her. Mm. You know what I mean? But he did force her to touch his dick.
Yeah.
And then she got really mad and wouldn't drink the drink, and he kicked her out of the hotel room. So she was causing trouble. Like I said, I think he liked compliant. He liked compliant, obviously. Because if you cause too much trouble, he's going to get mad and kick you out. So that's probably what you should do in that situation. But like I said, you wouldn't know. Most of these women didn't really have a choice. It was like, here, have a headache pill. And then all of a sudden, he's on top of you, like fucking sticking it in your butt or whatever.
Yeah.
Lily Bernard, I've seen several interviews with this woman. This happened in 1992. This is another woman. She was actually an actress. She was on an episode of The Cosby Show in 1992. And she was actually mentored by Bill Cosby for several years. And did not think anything about it. Like, everything about their relationship was totally fine. Like, she didn't think anything was weird or anything like that. But then, one night in 1992, he basically decided he was going to drug and rape her. Now, she did go to the police in New Jersey, and report it back then. So, there was that. So, the shit was reported, like, back then. But, like, to me, that was, like, one of the saddest stories. All of the stories are sad. But she was just so betrayed. She had known him for years.
Yeah.
And he was helping her out. Like, she was getting... And she did get on the Cosby Show. Like, she played a pregnant woman, like, in his office or something like that. And, because I saw the clip from the show. But basically, he mentored her all this time, and all this time he was probably planning to do this crap. And then he did that, and she couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Because she'd known him forever. And it was just for him to suddenly do this, and she just, like, couldn't fucking believe it. And it was just, like, so sad that she was, like, so fucking blindsided by it.
What's going through this dude's head?
I don't know, man. Michelle Hurd, 1995. She's kind of a well-known actress. She was on Law & Order Special Victims Unit. And she actually had a little role on the Cosby Mysteries, which I kind of remember the name of, but I don't think I ever saw it. And she says that she had lunch in his dressing room when they were working on it. And then she says he started, like, it was normal at first. Like, she would have lunch with him in his dressing room, like, every day, and it was normal. But then, like, after a while, he starts, let's do these acting exercises. But the acting exercises were, like, super weird. And it's like, then he started, like, groping her.
Yeah.
And she's like, the fuck are you doing? And he was just like, well, you can't tell anybody about this. The other actors might get jealous that I'm doing, like, all this mentoring and stuff like that. And then she says, he asked me to go to his house. And she's like, he's like, take a shower at my house. We could blow dry your hair and see what it looks like straightened. And she was like, nah.
Yeah.
No, bro. So she said, yeah, she dodged a bullet on that fucking... Yeah, I mean, good for her, like I said. But, holy crap. Like I said, I'm not like, blaming people that didn't know any better. Because, like I said, some of these people knew him for years, and then suddenly he did
With that one, he might have been just trying to put the moves on her.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, he didn't try to drug her. Yeah.
That's still creepy.
Yeah.
That shit's creepy. Lachelle Covington, 2000. She was actually an actress on his later sitcom, which was just called Cosby. And she actually did file a police report on him in 2000 and accused him of unwanted sexual advances.
Yeah.
She went to him looking for career advice, she says. And he basically started groping her, like put his hand under her shirt and then grabbed her hands and like started trying to put him down his pants.
Yeah.
And so she reported that shit. They didn't do anything about it, but she reported it.
Look, this dude here is not a normal situation.
Okay? Yeah, no shit.
And fucking, we're not talking shit about fucking aggressive dudes. This is not an aggressive dude, really. This is kind of a shit that a coward does. I consider myself actually sexually aggressive. But I never went after a woman that didn't want me to go after her. When you see it, they're receptive. They're trying to get you. You know what I mean? And I'll be aggressive with that. Because they want you. But this dude is going after women that don't want him.
Yeah.
You know,
think they're just like trying to get like career advice or mentoring or hey, they're just auditioning for a role on his show or something like a normal fucking person.
If you gotta work to get it, she doesn't want you.
Yeah.
And a lot of them got mad. Jen knows fucking girls that wanted me, but wanted me to fucking double up and work for it. I don't do that. You have to just be my friend. And it has to be very easy and very, you know what I mean? Fucking, Jen was perfect at it. Because she just became my buddy. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
And
because I liked you as a person.
Exactly. So you know when they like you.
You know what I mean? If you have to fucking jump through hoops and shit, she don't like you enough.
No. Well, like I said, I think this dude's situation, I think he kind of got off on the fact that they didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He kind of got off on the power of it. Seemed like.
Yeah.
You know? Andrea Constand, this was probably the most famous one because this was the one that he actually got convicted for. This happened in early 2004. Now, she was not an aspiring actress or anything like that. She actually was the director of operations for the Temple University's women's basketball team. And he had gone to Temple University and was involved in their sports programs. He had done track and field and stuff like that. So he was like an alumnus there and gave money to the university and whatnot. So he met her in that capacity. And he basically offered to be her mentor. And it worked out for, like I said, normal for a little while. But then, in January of 2004, she says she goes to his house in Pennsylvania. And he gave her some pills that he said would ease her anxiety. And then she started blacking out. And he started groping her and sexually assaulted her. Now, this woman, in March 2005, like I said, this was kind of the first thing that sort of kicked the whole thing off, even though it didn't get real big until later. She actually did file civil charges against him and 13 other women who at that time were Jane Does, some of whom we've already discussed. They agreed to testify like of a pattern of behavior. You know what I mean? Even though
it's a conspiracy.
They didn't want their names used.
Yeah.
Now, this case, which was a civil case, was settled out of court in 2006 for what was later disclosed as $3.3 million, or about that. That was kind of Bill Cosby's thing. He really liked to pay off women to keep them quiet, although, like I said, this woman did sue him later on in criminal trial. So that's the thing. Now, the thing about this particular
all the
case...
money he spent fucking defending himself and paying these women on, he could have got real high-end escorts.
That's what I mean.
That would have been hacky customers with him. This motherfucker's nuts, man.
Look, if you just wanted...
He'd have been happy to have him as a client.
Okay, if your fetish...
Yeah.
Which, like, it's not great. If your fetish is, like, I'm really into... I want to fuck a woman that's non-consensual. Like, don't do that.
They have fetish things for
But
them.
they have fetish things for that, where you could find where it's consensual, non-consensual, where she just pretends that it's non-consensual. You know what I mean? Like, you could have a whole scenario. You could pay a professional to do that. Why? Like, I guess it's not the same charge for them. Maybe. Like, they want it to be actual non-consensual.
They want it to be real. And it's a woman of his choice, and she's kind of like...
That's always so weird. Like, why would you want to fuck somebody that was just, like, unconscious? That seems like no fun at all.
She's a civilian, so you're not...
That seems no fun at all.
It's weird.
But it was his thing, I guess, because he did it over and over many years.
Maybe he couldn't help himself, and he was like, well, okay, then I'll just cover it back up again. Might have been just a compulsion.
And his fucking wife just put up with it, like, all this time.
The money.
I can't
The money and the security.
Why the fuck would you do that?
And she loved him.
Why would you love somebody like that?
He's
a terrible, terrible person.
It's all compartmentalized.
He's a terrible
Well, that's not how he is. He's not really like that. That's what... He was in a bad
I'm like,
mood
if he's been doing that for 30 years, yeah, he's really like that. Yeah. I hate to tell you. That's who he really is.
He just gets in these moods.
I know, there's like all kind of... Well, he's not usually like that. He's
Look, man, women get fucking...
He's nice to me.
Women get Stockholm Syndrome.
I know they do.
It's like
I know, it's sad.
It's almost kind of like an evolutionary fucking skill that they have.
It's sad.
Yeah.
They will... Poor women will put up with bloody anything.
Yeah.
They can like talk... Well, if it's introduced slow enough, like the dude could be a straight up fucking serial killer.
Yeah, she'll help him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's sad, man.
Yeah.
It's really sad. So the thing about this 2005 civil case was that Cosby gave a deposition for it. And in this deposition, he actually straight up admitted that one of his things was, he did have Quaaludes, which, that's kind of illegal. Like, to get them and administer them to other people at the time. but he admitted to having Quaaludes and giving them to women to have sex with them. Which I was like, I'm not sure if you know this, but you just admitted, because Quaaludes will kind of knock you out.
He didn't think that was an admission.
And yeah, so that's kind of what blew my mind.
An aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
It's an aphrodisiac.
No, it's just like a party drug. I'm like, no, that kind of knocks you out.
You give her,
if you have sex with someone unconscious, they are not consenting. That's rape.
In his mind, it's like giving her a few oysters. You eat some of these oysters.
I kind of feel that's the vibe I got.
Yeah.
Like he didn't think it was a big deal. I'm like, so you think it's okay? No, that it's all right.
He's a boomer.
It's all right to give somebody a drug that makes them unconscious, and then you have sex with them and they don't know about it?
Well, they took it. They drank it.
When you told them it was Benadryl?
They should have known better. They can justify.
I know.
Anything.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. She came up to the apartment with me.
She must have known something.
She know, yeah. You know, the women
Fucking
don't go to
boomers,
a man's
man.
apartment unless they're getting
Jesus Christ.
cough up
They
some
think they
pussy.
can just do the fuck anything.
Yeah.
Right?
You
Christ.
came up to my apartment, so hey,
What the hell?
you're good to go.
But yeah, the way he talked about it, the fact that he admitted administering Quaaludes to women he wanted to have sex with, I'm like, you're admitting it. You're admitting it. I don't think he realized he was admitting it, but he was. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, like, that shit wasn't unsealed until like 10 years later, and when the investigation was reopened. And then everybody's like, what? He just said it. He admitted it. Even though he said that everything was consensual. Yeah, not so much. If somebody's unconscious, they can't consent. I mean, they're unconscious. So, So there's that whole thing. But he admitted it. So there's that whole thing. Now, the thing about it, okay, so in that case, later on, like, we'll talk about that in a bit. Because in 2005, that was a civil case. It was settled for $3.38 million. They didn't reopen that investigation until 2015, which we'll talk about in a bit. There is one more victim, which I do want to talk about, whose name was Chloe Goins. That was in 2008. So like I said, he was still doing this shit in 2008. He was an old fucking man. And this woman, she said that she was at the Playboy Mansion. She also sued Hugh Hefner for negligence because she said he knew what was going on and didn't stop it, and it was his house. She says that Cosby brought her a drink, and then she started feeling sick. And then she says that Hugh Hefner and Bill Cosby both saw that she was quote-unquote woozy. And then they both told her to go lay down in a bedroom at the mansion. And then some bad shit happened. So there was that too. So all of that shit happened in the, from the 60s to 2004, 2008. But it didn't really get much traction, even though there had been the civil case in 2004, 2005. The deposition that Bill Cosby gave was sealed, and so nobody really knew all that much about it. However, in October of 2014, another African-American comedian named Hannibal Buress, probably best known for Broad City, was giving a stand-up routine. And he was taking issue with Bill Cosby's, what they call the pound cake speech, which has its own Wikipedia page, if you would care to look up many quotes from it. It was a speech he gave to like an NAACP, like award ceremony or something like that. It's pretty infamous, where he went on a little bit of a rant about the black community, pulling their pants up and their Shae-Nicole names and all this other kind of shit. So he went on this big long rant about it. And a lot of the African-American community were quite offended by what he said, which I can understand. And so a lot of comedians kind of came after him for that. And so Hannibal Buress was one of those comedians. And in 2014, he was doing a bit where he was basically like shitting on Bill Cosby for saying, oh, black people like pull your pants up and stuff like that. And he's like, and meanwhile, you're a fucking rapist. You know what I mean? So like, where the fuck can you talk? And he had been doing this bit for a while, like for several months. Like, cause like I said, people in the comedy kind of sphere like knew about it. So he'd been doing this bit for a while, and it hadn't really got much traction, but for whatever reason, he was doing this bit in Philadelphia, which maybe it was because that's where Bill Cosby is from, so it was like his hometown, so maybe that's why it kind of gained traction. But for whatever reason, this clip from his comedy routine where he was accusing Bill Cosby of being a rapist went viral. And he basically said, because everybody laughed when he said, "Hey, you're a rapist, how the fuck can you talk," or whatever. He was serious. He was serious. But no, he was serious because he said, no, he's like, I've been doing this bit for a while and nobody believes me. He's like, go home and Google Bill Cosby rape.
Yeah.
Because they knew about all the allegations. Because like I said, it had been going back to like the early 2000s. So for whatever reason, this particular comedy bit really kind of blew the doors off. And so people talk about reopening the investigation. Because a lot of people started looking it up. And he was saying it's like, this dude is hiding behind what he called a Teflon image. And he's doing all this shit behind the scenes and like nobody was like calling out for it. And the funny thing about that was that after all of these allegations started leaking out, Bill Cosby's, I presume, PR team tried to deflect some of the heat by going on Twitter and trying to do like they put up some pictures of Bill Cosby and said, "Hey, meme me." You know what I mean? That was kind of the thing they did on Twitter back in the day. But it turned out that most of the memes that people produced were all like rape related.
Rape-related memes.
Because everybody had heard about it. Yeah. So they had to take all of that shit down like 2 tweet. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
So, you know how that goes. So that was a little bit of a misfire, let's say. So, so after the, Hannibal Buress's comments went viral, like, a lot of the women that had talked about it before, like, came out and said, yeah, we've been telling you people all this shit for, like, a long time. It's like, please, like, fucking do something about this. So a lot of them came back out and, like, talked about it. So they actually did, like, a bunch of articles in, like, Salon, and I think the New York Magazine did one with, like, all of, like, 35 women, and a bunch of other ones that said that they had similar allegations but did not want to be photographed and things like that. So it's a lot of women is what I'm saying, that all of this shit was going on. And then in 2015, A&E did a documentary called Cosby, The Women Speak, and then 13 of the victims were interviewed, and basically they all called him a serial rapist and a sociopath, and that he was like hiding behind his fucking image. And after all of these articles came out, like, Cosby's lawyers kept sending, like, all these letters to all these different magazines, like, saying, it's like, oh, if you write about this, like, proceed at your own peril, and all this other kind of crap. Like, ooh, you know what I mean? It was all that kind of crap. So they were getting all these, like, fucking threatening letters and stuff. So essentially, like, how it turned out, I don't want to go too much into, like, all the legalities of it. But like I said, the civil case, in 2005... was settled at a court for $3.38 million, I believe that was. That was Andrea Constand's case. But then in 2015, they did actually file, after, a reopened investigation, they did actually file criminal charges. After he had admitted in his deposition, because the deposition was, open, like, unsealed in 2015. And after he said in his deposition, apparently, like, plain as day, yeah, I gave Quaaludes to women. Why is that a bad thing? You know what I mean? It's like that kind of shit. So they're like, oh, maybe we should look into this kind of crap because that's a little sketchy. So they looked into it. So, so basically, they reopened the criminal and, charged some, criminal files. What am I saying? Like, filed some criminal charges against him is what I'm trying to say. So in 2017, they did the first criminal trial. This ended in a hung jury. There were actually 2 jurors that they could not persuade to guilty. So it was a mistrial. So they had to do it all over again. They had to, probably. So they had to do it. That was kind of his style, honestly. Yeah. So they had to do it all over again. So they have a retrial again in 2018. And in this trial, Cosby was found guilty of all 3 counts he was charged with, which were penetration with lack of consent, penetration while unconscious, penetration while after administering an intoxicant, in this case, Quaaludes. So he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years. And he was sent to SCI Phoenix in Pennsylvania. Now, in 2021, however, after he had served, I believe, less than 3 years, he was actually released due to a technicality. The reason for this was that evidently, during the civil trial back in 2005 or whenever it was, somebody somewhere had given him a pinky swear promise. I don't even think it was like official or like written. I think it was in a press release, and that's about it. Where they said, well, if we prosecute him for this, we're not allowed to do a criminal prosecution. You know what I mean? Mm. So that ended up... So they said, well, he never should have been brought to criminal trial in the first place because of this agreement. Even though the agreement was not official. It wasn't on legal... It wasn't official anything. You know what I mean? Mm. Like I said, it was just in a press release. But evidently, that was enough to get him out of it. So they decided, well, he never should have been prosecuted in the first place because he was already, did the thing in the civil trial. So we have to let him out. So they let him out. So he gets out in fucking 2021. Now, I will say, though, that in 2022, he was convicted in a civil trial in a different case, the Judy Huth case, where the girl was like 16 years old. I don't really know. I think he had to pay like $500,000 in damages or something like that, but he was found guilty in that. Now, there were a couple of ongoing, like he's out of prison, but he's not like out of the woods yet, I guess, because there are some kind of, New York actually passed a thing in 2023 where like because weirdly, like some states have statute of limitations on sexual crimes, which to me is like fucking weird.
Well, no, they think that you should have brought it up at that time, so it might be a
right,
fake.
but it's like there might be reasons why that didn't happen. You know what I mean? But it's like, so in New York, they had a thing where it's like, look, you can bring up sexual charges, like it doesn't matter when it happened. So it's like, so 5 more women came forward at that point and like filed suit against him, but that shit is all like ongoing, so I don't really know how that's gonna go. So he's still, like I said, he's out. He's fucking almost 90 years old at this stage, and he's completely blind as far as I know. But he might still have some civil, but he'll just have to pay some money. It's not like he's going back to prison or nothing like that. Which, like I said, seems a little... 62 women, man. Jesus Christ. He got away with it.
Yeah. Well, his MO and fucking the money that he had, the protection that he had with his status... they were lucky to get a few years out of him, actually.
I guess. But
I think
still.
Harvey Weinstein's out. Isn't he out now?
Yeah, did he get out?
And he was doing shit similar to that. He wasn't drugging him. It's just that you're going to have to put up with fucking Harvey if you wanted this job. He was casting, couching them bitches hard.
That's fucked up.
And nobody fucking said or did anything except Brad Pitt. Fucking, he came after fucking Angelina, and Brad fucking manned up on him, which I respect Brad for that. Stay away from my fucking wife.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool that he did that.
Yeah.
Don't you fucking.
Because they weren't going to hurt Brad Pitt's fucking career. He couldn't hurt because it would get out.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like, he had the privilege. Which, honestly, right. If more actors that had privilege like that are kind of so rich that they're untouchable, it's like, hey, it ruined my career. I don't give a shit. Like, I have $1 billion fucking dollars. Like, if they know some fucked up shit is going on, like, say something about it. Well, they can't hurt you.
It wouldn't ruin his career. He'd end up being a hero, and he just worked for another studio.
Yeah. DVD Dragon says, Brad's from the South. He ain't having that.
Yeah. Brad told him to get the fuck away from my wife.
I mean, yeah, and that's awesome. Because that's...
And they both crazy. Well, but at least he manned up for that. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
But, like I said, I'm just saying that, I don't blame a lot of these women for not speaking up, because a lot of them were like fucking 17, 18, 19 years old. Yeah. They thought that this guy was going to be, their ticket to, jobs and stuff like that. They were all actresses and models and stuff, and they thought they were going to get jobs and auditions. And then he just ended up fucking them over.
Yeah.
And they were probably embarrassed.
Yeah. Well, they felt like they got duped.
They probably felt it's like no one's going to believe me, or it's just like they're just going to think I'm stupid that I went along with it or something like that, and they're just like not going to report it, and that's like really sad, especially back in the era when a lot of this shit happened.
Yeah. So you can see there was no social media because these people couldn't get their word out.
So you can see how this shit could go on for such a long time, especially back in those days, because one, it was kind of more. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it was accepted, but it was just kind of like. oh well.
No, they could hide it under the radar because there was no social media.
Yeah, that's just that just happens, and it's like there were rumors about it back then, but nobody did anything about it.
A woman, if something happened to her, she couldn't get a news station to fucking tell her story.
Yeah, no one would
They'd be like,
care.
oh hell no, we're not going to attack our own.
No one would care.
And really, I think the Harvey Weinstein thing, and maybe this also was a contributor. The Harvey Weinstein, I think, fucking actually collapsed the Hollywood system. It went downhill since then, and it was because of social media. I think that system was so corrupt, and there was so much sexual abuse. That so many of the bigwigs had so much dirt that they just wanted to fucking kind of like leave the industry, and they kind of just took the money in the industry with them. And you notice the quality of this shit started to decline around that time.
You can't really get away with shit.
You can't get away
like
with the
you
shit
used
anymore.
to.
So the vampire,
which is good.
Yeah, but it was vampires in charge of that fucking industry. So as soon as you scared the vampires away, the industry kind of went away. You know. Now they had some talented people that were good, but it's not enough. All the money guys were dudes like Weinstein. Yeah. And
it's just like
they're
I
bad.
said, it's just really sad to me that
the Me Too movement got it.
Yeah, which, like I said, good for it. I mean, and it kind of like fucked with this too, like because this was also this might have been one of the things that kind of
started the Me Too
started the Me Too movement because so many women were coming forward.
Yeah.
Just kind of attacking all of these fucking.
If you look at the history of Hollywood,
powerful ass people.
If you look at the history of Hollywood going back to the fucking silver screen to the 20s and the fucking 30s, they treated those fucking actresses like shit. They were hookers, basically.
Yeah.
And they treated them like hookers.
Yeah.
And they owned them. Like what they did to Louise Brooks was a fucking shame. You know what I mean? Fucking kicked her out of the fucking industry because the other girls were jealous of her because she was fucking getting too much dick. And it was too powerful. And then, she got blacklisted, and then what'd she become? A hooker. And that's why she disappeared. Poor thing. They said, well, she couldn't make it in fucking talkies. No. It's because she wouldn't fuck the right dudes. And she made too many enemies because she was fucking so many guys. But,
that she wanted to fuck.
That she wanted to fuck. Yeah. She fucked Charlie Chaplin, and fucking she couldn't believe that he left her. He wouldn't come back. Even though he was married, I think.
He was, yeah.
But, but look up Louise Brooks, what happened to her. Well, that's kind of the standard for that whole industry. That you can't do that today in the era of social media. So the guys that ran Hollywood fucking kind of retreated.
I mean, you can, but people are going to call you out on it.
Well, you'd get caught. There'd be lawsuits.
Then you'll cry and say you're being canceled or blah, blah, or something.
And that, traditionally, Hollywood owned the police, the courts, everything.
Yeah, it's like, it's crazy
you could kill
how
somebody and the fucking police would cover up the murder.
I wrote about some cases in some of my books, like back in the 1920s, where actors and stuff like that were killed, and they would let, like, the Hollywood, like, the executives, like, the producers of the studios would come in there for the cops did. Like, the cops would let them clean the scene up.
Yep.
Like, if there were any drugs or if there was anything untoward, like, they would clean it up, and the cops would just, like, fall in line, like, with whatever, oh, well, this was just a terrible accident or whatever the fuck narrative they wanted to put out. Yeah. Like, they would follow along with it. It was crazy.
Yeah, and the studios would fucking tell those fucking starlets, the starlet females, like, oh, look, we're sending you on a special job. You got to go hang out with this fucking millionaire for a couple weeks. Go hang out with this millionaire in his mansion. I'm like, what the fuck's this all about? Well, we gotta pay for a movie.
Yeah,
he's gonna pay for a movie. So go shake your tail for others over there. Fucking they were hookers. Yeah, fucking horrible shit.
That's what I mean. It's just kind of like I don't really think
pimping out the actresses and shit.
Yeah. Well. Especially back in that era. I mean, women were not really people, really, like, fully. You were just kind of... You did what you were told, and you were just seen as, like, lesser, I guess.
You were merchandise, kind of.
Yeah, you were like an object.
Well, also, they were expendable.
That too.
The Hollywood starlet was just girls that kind of came off of the street. You know what I mean? They didn't really come from anything, poor families, and that's what they wanted.
Yeah, just like an old beat-up couch we found on the curb.
Yeah.
We can get another one. Up.
She's 16. We'll make millions of dollars. If she gives us any shit, we'll replace
her. We'll just get her, and we'll get another one.
Yeah, we'll get another one.
You know what I mean? So it's like they didn't really give a shit.
They
could just treat you like crap. Full Metal Nosferatu says, did y'all ever see when he was being on trial and being let out of court for the day, and the press were trying to ask him questions, and he was all like, hey, like fucking Fat Albert. Cringe. Yeah, The dude, I still am not convinced, as fucking old as he is, I still am not convinced that he thinks he did anything wrong. I don't think, like I said, he's an old man. Times were different back then, and they could get away with more shit. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying they could get away with shit and, like, nothing would happen to them. So I think they think that it's still that era, you know? And they can still do that crap, and they're not going to get any blowback on it. Which, okay. But yeah, so, like I said, just from reading his deposition, which was from before he was old as fuck, like it was 2005 or whatever, but just the tone of it, I didn't read it all, but I read, like, bits of it. I was like, he really doesn't think he did anything bad. To him, it just seems like, me and this girl, we decided to take Quaaludes and had consensual sex. And I'm like, that's really not how she remembers it, though. You know what I mean? It's like, you might have thought of it that way, but that's really not how everyone else was thinking of it. So I kind of feel like he thought, what's the big deal? Like, he really seemed like it wasn't a big deal, which is horrifying. But like I said, he's old as shit now, and he'll probably die soon. So that's the only good thing about this. That's the silver lining about this whole situation. Because shit, man, shit like that, like, this just depresses me so much. It depresses me that he got away with this for so fucking long. And like I said, it depresses me that he did, you know, objectively do so much good for the community. And it's like, he could have just done that. And nowadays we would be talking about, wow, what an awesome dude that Bill Cosby was. He gave so much money to, like, for scholarships, and he helped so many people, and blah de blah. Like, he was a wonderful role model, and what a wonderful dude he was. But no, he had to do this crap. He had to do this. And why is it hard to not do this? I don't understand. You would fuck your whole entire legacy to do this crap. Like I said, if you really wanted to explore this fetish or whatever the fuck it was, hire a fucking escort. She'll pretend she's unconscious. It's fine. It's all in the up and up. Yeah, hire an escort. It's not entirely legal unless you're in Vegas or whatever, but come on. That would have been a lot better than doing it to fucking unwilling participants, right? That came out later and sued you. So, I don't know, man. So now everybody's going to just remember him as, oh, Bill Cosby, that rapist. No one's going to remember all the good shit you did. You know? That's what I mean. Stupid. Fucking stupid. It's just, like I said, it's a fucking waste. So yeah, this is making me mad. The whole show is making me mad. All right, so we are going to wrap it up for this evening. Tom's going to make us some food. And I'm going to try and not be mad about it. I don't know why this made me so mad. It just made me... this kind of shit just makes me so mad. I don't know why. It all makes me mad, but yeah. All right, so we're going to wrap it up for this evening. Thank you very much for hanging out with us this evening. Thank you very much for your super chats. We'll be back on Friday night for our regular sidetrack show, which as usual is just us getting really drunk and talking about whatever, which we kind of do on this show, but at least we sort of had a topic. But yeah, on that show, we just talk about whatever. We don't have a topic. So hopefully you guys can join us for that, because that's always super fun. So yeah, have a good rest of your evening, you guys. Have a good day tomorrow, and we will see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.